Hey truckers, today we are seeing part 4 of the guide to conquering Earthlings. She was extremely satisfied with this day. Although there were some small hiccups in between, they were no big deal. In the end, she still walked to this perfect proposal scene according to plan. She tried hard to gaze at Xiacheng affectionately. His handsome face seemed especially tense at this moment. The usual ease was gone, as if he was facing a formidable enemy, with disbelief and distraction. This was exactly the same as described in the guidebook. As expected of the masterpiece written by the most elite experts of Mui Star that has already predicted everything about Earthlings. Marriage is a very solemn life choice for Earthlings. Therefore, the more nervous an Earthling is when facing a proposal, the more it shows his serious attitude. He must not be someone who takes marriage lightly. She didn't know why, but her heart was also beating very fast, especially while waiting for Xiacheng's reply. Her heartbeat was so chaotic as if she was attacked by heart disease. Fortunately, she was after all a princess who had seen all kinds of grand occasions. Finally, Shi tried hard to at least look calm on the surface. She held Xiacheng's hand and put the furry little penguin she had given him earlier into his palm. She enthusiastically announced, "This penguin, you gave it to me. If you nod, we'll go get our marriage certificate tomorrow, and it will be evidence of your love for me and become our witness at the wedding, the crystallization of our love." Facing her continuous offensive, Xiacheng finally showed an expression as if he almost couldn't hold on. He stared at Shi as if he couldn't get a word out. This must be because he was too excited. After all, not everyone could be proposed to in such a sincerely arranged scene. What's more, the person proposing was a noble princess. Although Shi couldn't announce her identity, she was confident that her innate aristocratic temperament in every move had already subtly let Xiacheng feel that he was bathing in glory all the time. So it was completely understandable that he was so excited that he couldn't speak. In the next second, he might even cry out directly. It would be fine if he cried too, because the guidebook had pointed out everything in advance. She had prepared tissues in advance, just waiting for Xiacheng's 2 lines of hot tears to flow down, and she could affectionately wipe away those excited and happy tears for him. However, to Shi's slight relief, Xiacheng apparently turned out to be stronger than she had predicted. He showed no sign of tears at all. But probably because he was holding back his tears, his complexion looked rather ugly. "Where did you buy these candles and flowers from?" "What do you mean? Were they too beautiful and unique?" Shi was very proud of this. She said, "Yes, you must have noticed. Although the theme of my proposal scene is the same as others, with candles, fresh flowers and elements of love hearts, my candles and flowers are different from those used in other people's proposal scenes. I picked them out from 100 options. The white candles represent purity. I won't choose those tacky pink or red ones commonly used in ordinary proposals, because only white can represent your aloof temperament and cold looks. These white candles are just as unique and different as you are, unlike those mixed brands of pink, red, and all kinds of candles." She had memorized her script early on. She spoke very fluently, but Xiacheng interrupted her expressionlessly. "Didn't you notice these white candles have a word written on them?" She had to give Xiacheng a big thumb up in her heart. The Earthling she had chosen was awesome with very meticulous observation. This was exactly what she was going to say. As expected of Xiacheng. Therefore, she looked at Xiacheng approvingly. "That's right. I bought these candles online. This word represents the brand. These candles come from a huge production line and big brand. Many different stores sell this brand online, which shows it has occupied and divided the market early on. Compared to those mixed brands of pink, red, and all kinds of candles, you can see these white candles of this brand are unanimously praised and recognized by the market. Those who have used them say they are good. It was also the best-selling candle in the candle shop in the last month. The choice of the public must not be wrong. As Lanshi spoke, she got more and more excited. She had indeed prepared a lot for this moment. The guidebook clearly taught that in order to increase the success rate of the proposal, you must let the proposed person know the preparation and efforts you have made for the proposal. Lanshi did so naturally. After introducing her candles, she pointed to the yellow and white flowers next to them and introduced, "As for these, they are the featured flowers in flower shops recently. They are placed at the door, in the most conspicuous position, and are marked as hot selling. I saw many passers-by buying the same type. The shop owner told me these are the freshest chrysanthemums that have just been launched on the market." Xiaqing must have been moved, because Lanshi saw him reveal an indescribable restrained expression on his face. He must be trying hard to hold back from hugging her and shouting yes. However, generally speaking, when facing a proposal, many Earthlings, apart from feeling shocked, would also act more slowly, and some would play hard to get to show their preciousness and make their other half cherish themselves more in the future. It was understandable. After all, her own identity was so noble and the gap between her and Xiaqing was simply that of mud and cloud. He was probably already feeling the lack of security in this relationship. So it was normal that he wanted to pretend for a bit. Then she'd have to try harder to take out her ultimate killer. In fact, I know that there is no perfect proposal scene, only better ones. Apart from candles and flowers, I originally wanted to decorate it even better, but my budget was limited. Xiaqing's voice sounded as if he was about to lose control. He suppressed with great effort, "Lanshi, you have decorated it well enough already. With these, what else do you still want to decorate?" You updates tnvel/buy. Calm. This was exactly the line she had been waiting for. Lanshi said coyly, "I heard from Liangdi that you like horse riding. That day in the online shop where I bought the candles, I also saw paper-folded large horses which looked very artistic. I originally wanted to buy 2 for you to put in the proposal scene, but when I asked about the price, it turned out to be quite expensive, so I gave up." She looked deeply into Xiaqing's eyes, "But I hope you know, I thought of all this. It's just my wallet has some hardships. I can only give you the best within my ability for now. Don't worry. As long as I make money in the future, I will definitely buy you those paper-folded large horses for your birthday." Lanshi paused and decided to press the attack, "So can you agree to my proposal?" Unfortunately, Xiaqing did not answer directly. He just continued to look at Lanshi expressionlessly and asked a question completely irrelevant to the proposal. "Do you know if there is any upcoming festival recently?" "Festival? What festivals are coming up on Earth recently?" Lanshi tried hard to think back. However, her knowledge was shallow. Apart from Valentine's Day and Christmas, she couldn't even remember other festivals at all. But it didn't matter. Lanshi was confident in getting by without exposing herself. She could completely fool her way through relying on her intelligence and adaptability. After all, she was extremely flexible and versatile, and was well versed in the social customs of Earthlings with a good grasp of the behavior patterns of Earthlings. The significance of asking about upcoming festivals at such a critical moment of proposal was self-evident. This must be the most beloved reserve program for Earthlings, combining the date of getting the marriage certificate with some festival or day with special meaning, adding joy. Not only would Xiaqing definitely agree to her proposal, he had even started thinking about when to get the marriage certificate and planning how to operate the wedding. It seemed set. Lanshi recalled the instructions in the guidebook and smiled shyly. "Are you thinking of going with me to get the certificate on that upcoming festival?" She covered her lips. "I think the next festival is indeed a good day. I have no objection to getting our certificate that day." Next, it would be Xiaqing's sincere confession. According to the guidebook, he would usually movedly confess to her, followed by a hug or kiss. Lan Shi had already mentally rehearsed the following plot countless times. She eagerly and longingly stared at the man in front of her, waiting for his next move. And Xia Qing did just that. In the dim light, Xia Cheng's face took on a natural cold paleness, making his eyebrows and eyes appear even darker and more three-dimensional without any extraneous lines. His bone structure was superior and he was handsome without any superfluous embellishment. Lan Shi's heartbeat grew somewhat more chaotic. She had to admit that as an earthling, his appearance would be hard to compete with. Having accompanied her with the umbrella earlier, Xia Qing had been sprinkled with some rain, and now wearing only a white shirt, although the garment itself had not gotten wet. Because of that moisture it clung fittingly to the curves of his body, his muscular proportions were just right, and that white shirt unhindered outlined his tall, vigorous figure. Lan Shi once again confirmed that Xia Qing was indeed in an Earth male's optimal reproductive state, because the pheromones surrounding his body were very strong, unambiguously transmitting this message through the muscle lines of his arms, waist, abdomen and legs. And this male possessing Earth's superior gene fragments and highly concentrated reproductive hormones was about to utter a long-awaited oath. Clearly getting married was only to better conquer Xia Cheng's money, and thereby conquer Earth, yet at this moment, Lan Shi unexpectedly could not help but feel somewhat inexplicably nervous and flustered. It must be those Earth idol dramas that had side effects on her. She made an effort to steady her mind, silently reciting the operational procedures and steps she should take after Xia Qing agreed. However, the moment she truly heard Xia Cheng's low, sexy voice, Lan Shi only felt her mind go completely blank. I do. Xia Cheng's handsome face was imperturbable as he looked at Lan Shi expressionlessly. Just when Lan Shi was so nervous she could barely breathe, she heard the cold voice of the man in front of her ring out once more. You thought I would say that, didn't you? Xia Qing pointed at everything in front of him. After you set up a funeral parlor for me? Lan Shi saw him rub his brow and then grit his teeth and enunciate word for word. Lan Shi, do you know, the nearest festival now is Qingming? Qingming? What was Qingming? You want to register on Qingming? Xia Qing felt he was simply about to suffocate from anger. This was a proposal? What kind of proposal was this? How could Lan Shi say this was a proposal she had carefully prepared? And pick a festival to register? He really had to take her to get her head examined. Xia Qing finished speaking and couldn't help but glance again at the pitiful spirit platform scene in front of him. As sunset gave way to nightfall, in the dim lighting, the white candles burning at the scene, the solemn and quiet yellow and white chrysanthemums all around, it made people instinctively want to offer incense. The only comforting thing was that Lan Shi didn't have money, so at least she hadn't bought those 2 paper horses for herself. Otherwise, Xia Qing couldn't guarantee that he could still maintain his current etiquette and moral standards. Thinking of this, Xia Cheng's gaze involuntarily turned to Lan Shi. She was clearly the one who caused this whole thing, but the perpetrator herself was completely confused and innocent, as if she knew nothing about the customs and taboos of the Qingming festival. Her bright, round eyes stared at Xia Qing. If Qingming doesn't work, then when does? Should we wait until another festival? I can also wait. It won't work anytime. I won't marry you. Xia Qing took a deep breath. Lan Shi, we are not in a relationship where we can get married. If I have misled you in any way, I apologize, but I don't have those kinds of feelings for you. Today, I already accompanied you to the amusement park as agreed. I will take you home and arrange for someone to come and clear up this venue. After that, our relationship doesn't need to progress any further. Staying as we are now is perfectly fine. Xia Cheng's words were very direct, and he knew they would hurt Lan Shi. Although Lan Shi was naive and not very socially and interpersonally adept, the enthusiasm she harbored for immediately getting married was clearly genuine. On the ride home, Lan Shi did seem somewhat depressed and pitiful, as if she had suffered a major setback. But unrealistic hopes can sometimes torment people more than a quick, decisive despair. Xiaqing resisted the urge to comfort her. Although everything was now out in the open, if Lan Shi needed help getting used to her new teacher or had any other difficulties in her life or at work in the future and came to Xiaqing for help, he would definitely not shirk his responsibilities. Thinking of Lan Shi's pitiful background, distressing experiences being taken advantage of, the physical and psychological trauma she endured, as well as her reclusive disorder and social barriers, Xiaqing didn't think his concern for her was strange at all. She belonged to a vulnerable group in society. His caring for her when he was in a position to do so was a perfect embodiment of high moral standards. However, the vulnerable group in Xiaqing's eyes didn't think of herself as vulnerable at all. On the contrary, in Lan Shi's mind, it was Xiaqing who was weaker, since Muin star people were strong and good at fighting, while people from Earth would get their arms and legs broken at the slightest provocation. Nevertheless, Lan Shi had to admit Xiaqing wasn't wrong in his observations. She really had sunk into tremendous frustration. After all, as a princess, she had gone to the trouble of humbling herself to propose to a fragile earthling man, but she was rejected. The guidebook didn't say it would turn out like this. She had followed all the steps in the guidebook perfectly. What happened to the promised 100% success rate? And when faced with a failed proposal, the guidebook didn't describe any coping measures at all. Fortunately, there was still Liang Di. Feeling dejected, Lan Shi called her. "I did everything according to what you said. I went out with him today, paid for everything myself, and even carefully prepared a proposal, but he told me our relationship stops here and he would never marry me." Unfortunately, Liang Di didn't give Lan Shi any more suggestions this time. She sounded aggrieved. "Lan Shi, you're so beautiful, there's no need to hang yourself on a crooked tree like Xiaqing. Let's find another man to replace that irresponsible scumbag Xiaqing." Liang Di was indeed very angry. She felt that however much admiration and respect she used to have for Xiaqing deep down, now she hated him just as much. How could a person have such a golden exterior but a rotten interior? The innocent and beautiful Lan Shi was completely taken in and had her feelings deceived by Xiaqing. In Liang Di's opinion, the best way to defeat an unhealthy relationship was to embark on a brand new romance. She felt that the only reliable way to finally pull Lan Shi, who had invested her whole heart in Xiaqing, out of the mire was not to persuade her with reason or analyze the pros and cons, but to introduce her to someone even better than Xiaqing. Fortunately, Liang Di had extensive social connections. She decided to carefully look around and assess potential candidates in her social circles, and then facilitate a beautiful love story to allow the innocent beauty Lan Shi to find someone to rely on. The conquest plan was just one step away from the ultimate marriage, but it got stuck on that very last step. As everyone knows, conquest is a complete process, and if any one step fails, then the entire conquest plan is tantamount to failure. Lan Shi pulled an all-nighter trying to figure out how to turn defeat into victory and shift from passive to active, but to no avail. The next day, she sat dejectedly in the office with dark eye circles. The only comforting thing was that, as per his annual routine, Xiaqing had gone to the hospital for a regular health checkup, so he wasn't at the company. This avoided a lot of awkwardness and gave Lan Shi breathing room to continue working on how to get through to him. However, Lan Shi's plans were soon interrupted. Xiaqing's uncle, contacted her saying he wanted to meet her. To better facilitate Lan Shi's infiltration without Xiaqing finding out, Xiaqing had not met with her for a long time, only exchanging information via email on a regular basis. To be frank, in carrying out Xiaqing's dirty work while pretending to be loyal to Xiaqing, Lan Shi was efficient and performed her duties flawlessly. For example, just yesterday she had emailed to report that Xiaqing took her to an amusement park, and before that there was also the private tutoring Xiaqing gave her alone at his home. A true hunter often disguises himself in the posture of prey. How very true that saying is. As he scanned the email, Xie Jing couldn't help but sigh with emotion. In such a short time, his workaholic nephew had put his work aside to take her out to play at amusement parks. What kind of astonishing ability was this? So beautiful and so skilled at handling men that even the emperor neglected the morning court. She was Su Daji incarnate. With a fierce general like her on his side, did he need to worry about Xiaqing any longer? The chess piece he placed, she had infiltrated deep into enemy ranks. By the looks of it, Xiaqing was completely spellbound by this little vixen. What was rarest of all was that this Lan she not only knew how to resort to feminine wiles, but was also shrewd and astute. Private tutoring at home, eh? Such an ambiguous way of phrasing it. It amounts to nothing less than my randy nephew unable to restrain his lust and taking her home to sleep with her. Xie Jing narrowed his eyes slightly and comfortably sipped his tea. He was very satisfied with Lan Shi's work. His urgent summons today were mainly to assign her even more important tasks. Before long, Lan Shi arrived, still beautiful, but looking somewhat haggard, inevitable considering the frequent tutoring day and night. As a seasoned PUA professional, the first thing Xie Jing did was sing Lan Shi's praises, complimenting her, discussing her health with concern, going through the motions of taking out his precious wild mountain ginseng to give her. After beating around the bush this way, he finally got to the crux of the matter. Xiaqing's new meteorological database software is undergoing final trial runs before going online, right? Xie Jing's eyes shifted around sneakily. Although Xiaqing kept this software tightly under wraps, he nevertheless got wind of this software's development timeline and future commercial value from other partners and industry insiders. It represented endless cooperative opportunities, market share, and tremendous business potential. After Xie Jing took over Xiaqing's parents' company Qing'an, he carried out a major reshuffling of personnel, planting his own people in core finance and operations positions, nearly a complete takeover. However, Xie Jing didn't understand the industry and lacked management experience. The own people he installed took advantage of him right under his nose. Xie Jing wasn't completely oblivious to this fact, but for the most part he turned a blind eye to it. He never imagined that an unprofessional boss coupled with a team that was also unprofessional while lining their own pockets would ultimately result in Qing'an's year-on-year decline as reflected in the financial statements. Although the finance department cooked the books to make the outward-facing data still seem prosperous, Xie Jing knew that if he didn't swiftly turn losses into gains, this bubble of fake prosperity would soon burst. But if he could get ahead of Xiaqing and be the first to release this meteorological database software using Qing'an, then he could seize the initiative and appropriate this software and the huge commercial opportunities it represented. All of this just required getting a prototype of the meteorological software first, then plagiarizing and launching a similar version ahead of time. Xie Jing had been waiting patiently for a long time, and now was finally the time to cast the net. A few days ago, he had already given the addictive drug powder that Lan Shi had previously collected from Xiaqing to an authoritative testing center, just waiting for the analysis report to identify what kind of drug it was. At that time, after stealing the meteorological data software, even if faced with Xiaqing's accusation, Xie Jing was confident he could throw out Xiaqing's Achilles heel of being addicted to drugs, catching Xiaqing off guard and leaving him powerless to investigate his own responsibility. Back and forth, the meteorological data software and the vast market in the future would be effortlessly swallowed by Xie Jing. Thinking of this, Xie Jing looked at Lan Shi. Now there is a very important task that must be completed by you. After it is done, I can give you a portion of Qing'an's shares. Sure enough, as soon as he said this, Lan Shi's eyes lit up. Is that a lot of money? Of course. Xie Jing felt everything was under control. There will be a lot of money. You won't have to work anymore in the future. What do I need to do? Xie Jing looked into Lan Shi's eyes and lowered his voice. Help me steal Xiaqing's meteorological software system. Lan Shi frowned. Is this weather software very valuable? Of course it's valuable. It represents a commercial market behind it that's worth hundreds of millions. So you go and steal it for me, and I won't shortchange you on the benefits later. Xie Jing's words were always tactful, trying not to give anyone a handle, but Lan Shi's performance over this period had already gained his trust. Therefore, this time, in front of her, he no longer beat around the bush with vague implications, but directly stated his requirements. As a result, Xie Jing hadn't finished speaking when Lan Shi, who had looked very capable just now, suddenly righteously shouted. Mr. Xia! Are you confused? How can you ruin your future like this? For a moment, Xie Jing was stunned by Lan Shi's momentum and didn't know what to say. Lan Shi looked pained. Steal? How can people steal things? Stealing is against the law. Lan Shi stared at Xie Jing with righteous indignation, then continued, Mr. Xia, people need to have a bottom line. How can you steal? From a moral point of view, stealing other people's things to satisfy yourself instead of through your own honest labor not only has no value added to society as a whole, but is a behavior that should be despised for violating the spirit of labor. From a legal point of view, according to the criminal law, those who steal public or private property, if the amount is huge or if there are other serious circumstances, shall be sentenced to fixed-term imprisonment of not less than 3 years but not more than 10 years and shall also be fined or have their property confiscated. The weather software you want me to steal is so valuable, isn't that almost 10 years in prison with confiscated property? Lan Shi's eyes were filled with disbelief. Mr. Xia, do you need to go to the hospital to check your brain? Lan Shi was using this skillfully. Whenever she did something rather shocking, Xie Jing would say this to her. Using it in this situation was obviously appropriate. It would also make her seem like a very authentic Earthling, with no clues about her being out of the ordinary. As the princess, she was just that witty and versatile. Lan Shi believed that with what she just said, no one would have any more doubts about her identity. Her earthly undercover work was done perfectly. Sure enough, after she said this, Xie Jing looked extremely shocked. He stared at Lan Shi, as if he was speechless for a long time. It was understandable. After all, Lan Shi had just saved him from the edge of crime. Not every Earthling could recite the criminal law like Lan Shi. It was normal for Xie Jing to be so surprised. Xie Jing was indeed shocked by Lan Shi's words, but the reason was very different from what Lan Shi thought. It wasn't until Lan Shi left that Xie Jing finally lost control and swept everything off the table onto the floor in anger. She was rebelling against him. Was she getting too big for her boots and refusing to work? Was stalking Xie Jing every day, and deliberately leading Xie Jing into dangerous situations with femme fatale tactics to get him addicted to her charm earlier something legal and moral? When she reported Xie Jing's whereabouts every day, was that above board? When they first started working together, didn't he imply everything clearly, and as a smart person she understood completely too? Weren't they cooperating tacitly by the rules and keeping an unspoken understanding? But now at the critical moment, how could she pull this? What a pretense! Self-righteously telling him not to steal, and even arrogantly provoking him to get his brain checked. After the anger, Xie Jing tried his best to calm himself down. The more critical the situation, the more he couldn't lose control. Lan Shi, who was originally in the same camp as him, had suddenly rebelled. There must have been some recent changes that he was unaware of, which led to Lan Shi being turned, and her allegiance had undergone an earth-shattering change. Xie Jing thought for a while, then called Wan Yan in on the intercom. Wan Yan was Xie Jing's childhood sweetheart. When Xie Jing's parents were still around, she would often go to Xie Jing's house to chat, so Xie Jing also knew her. Earlier, Wan Yan even called him Uncle Xie Jing, and after Xie Jing took over Qing'an, Wan Yan's parents wanted to pave the way for their daughter's future career, so they also networked with Xie Jing during holidays and festivals. So Xie Jing calling her over was reasonable. Wan Yan had been protected very well by her family since she was young, so although she was crafty, she didn't have great experience. Sure enough, after Xie Jing chatted with her about daily life for a while and then gradually brought up the issues he wanted to find out, Wan Yan took the bait. Uncle Xia, that Lan Shi, I see she has no intention of working hard at all. She sticks to cousin Xiecheng every day. She didn't come to Qingxian to work at all. She just came to hook herself a rich husband. She was obviously very dissatisfied with Lan Shi. As soon as Lan Shi's name was mentioned, she started complaining like spilled beans, without Xie Jing's guidance. Every day she just thinks about how to use tricks to seduce cousin Xiecheng. Unfortunately, cousin Xiecheng is too naive to know women like her are so crafty. She even went to high-end clubs on a matchmaking blind date. Her social relationships are messy, and her circle of friends seems dirty too. I reminded cousin Xiecheng several times, but he didn't indicate anything. He's just too kind. Wan Yan got more and more aggrieved. Also, Lan Shi and I are colleagues at the same level, but Lan Shi has already acted like the boss's wife, arrogantly ordering me around. The other day, she even condescendingly said to me that she appreciated my dedication to the company, and that after she marries Xiecheng in the future, she would remember my kindness and give me a promotion and a raise. Uncle Xia, what kind of person is this? Shameless. Wan Yan was still immersed in her own emotions, but Xie Jing couldn't help laughing. He knew where the crux of the matter was. Sure enough. Turns out Xiecheng promised that as long as she defected to his side, he would marry her as boss's wife after succeeding. No wonder Lan Shi immediately sided with Xiecheng. She didn't even hide it from outsiders, eagerly wanting to formally enter the household as the boss's wife. Right? After the Qingxian meteorological software goes online, there will be huge business opportunities and markets, which means endless money. Compared to getting a small share of money or equity from him for stealing software for him, it would be better to join forces with Xiecheng. By eventually marrying him, they could form a solid union of interests, owning mountains of gold and silver, not to mention going from a contract worker to the boss's wife. Also, Lan Shi was a poor village girl who crawled to her current position. With so many certificates and a cunning understanding of playing pig to eat tiger, she was clearly a ruthless figure. When Xie Jing thought it through, he felt extremely regretful. No matter how much he had planned, he didn't expect that Xiecheng would stake his own marriage as a bargaining chip to win over Lan Shi. Moreover, Lan Shi was indeed beautiful, so Xiecheng might even be enjoying himself and not feel like he had made any sacrifice at all. It was a win-win situation where he had poached one of Xie Jing's top generals and also obtained a beautiful and excellent wife. Now faced with the huge benefit of directly becoming the boss's wife, Lan Shi naturally switched allegiances. Especially with the meteorological software about to launch, Lan Shi was in high spirits and already referring to herself everywhere as the boss's wife. As a result, she finally revealed her true colors and no longer even showed Xie Jing basic respect. She even asked him if he needed to go get his head examined. Although Xie Jing tried his best to calm himself down, whenever he thought about this, he still felt breathless from anger and chest tightness. It was true that a capable and resourceful woman like Lan Shi, who also had beauty as a weapon, how could she be willing to play second fiddle to anyone? He didn't expect that he had taken this crucial chess piece and voluntarily delivered it into Xiecheng's hands, making it Xiecheng's dagger to counterattack him. At this critical moment when Xie Jing was desperately thinking of countermeasures, his secretary knocked on the door to deliver the appraisal center's report. Chairman Xia, your appraisal report is out. Xie Jing's gloomy expression finally relaxed a bit. That's right, he had forgotten there was still this. Once he obtained evidence that Xiecheng was addicted to drugs, he might still be able to forcefully send him to rehab. Relying on the evidence Lan Shi had previously provided, he still had a chance to turn the tables. Xie Jing opened the appraisal report with an almost excited anticipation. This was currently his only bet. However, things turned out contrary to his wishes. Upon appraisal, the submitted powder samples have been identified as freeze-dried coffee powder, dehydrated under low temperatures, in compliance with current food safety standards. The coffee beans are estimated to originate from Yunnan. Xie Jing stared wide-eyed, almost unable to believe his eyes. Coffee powder? That powder was freeze-dried coffee powder? This can't be right. Didn't Lan Shi clearly say that Xie Jing was addicted to this stuff and inhaled it every day? However, the appraisal report came from the most authoritative and impartial appraisal center, so there was no possibility of fraud or error. In that case, the only answer could be that Lan Shi had ulterior motives long ago. She had deliberately fobbed him off with freeze-dried coffee powder. Xie Jing traced back the timeline and felt his teeth gnashing in anger. No wonder the information she later provided seemed useless. And here he was, still happy that she had Xie Jing wrapped around her finger, wallowing in her tenderness. He didn't expect this woman was actively seducing Xie Jing purely based on her desire to move up the ranks and had long forgotten the mission Xie Jing gave her. Her wings were already stiff and she no longer intended to listen to Xie Jing's arrangements. The enemy was within. What kind of bargaining chip would now be enough to make Lan Shi abandon the lure of becoming Xie Jing's new boss's wife and return to his camp? When it rains, it pours. At this moment, his secretary knocked on the door again with an embarrassed look. Chairman Xia, Chairman Yunfei is waiting outside your office wanting to see you. He doesn't have an appointment. What should I do? When one has bad luck, even drinking cold water will make your teeth ache. If Xie Jing had to rank the people he least wanted to see right now as number 1 and number 2, it would definitely be Xie Jing and Lan Shi. His useless son, Xie Yunfei, would absolutely be number 3. Although Xie Jing currently controlled Qing'an, if Xie Yunfei couldn't step up, how could Qing'an continue to be controlled by his family when he got old and was coveted by Xie Jing? Although Xie Jing had consciously tried to support his son, Xie Yunfei really was a hopeless case. He had barely graduated from university and was supposed to start working at Qing'an as agreed. But he seldom actually went to work properly after the first few days. More often, Xie Jing saw his son's name in the entertainment section of the newspapers, either passionately dating some budding model, showing up at some internet celebrity's movie premiere, or dirty dancing with some hot chicks at a nightclub. Everyone at Qing'an knew Xie Yunfei's position was in name only. He understood neither business operations nor management, and had no interest in career matters. He was merely a playboy. And when Xie Yunfei took the initiative to come to Qing'an to find him, it was either to ask for money or to clean up some mess he had gotten himself into again. Visit n0vl/bin. For the best novel reading experience. Sure enough. Dad, why did you freeze my credit card? I was out for drinks with Lisa last night and promised I would open a few good bottles to celebrate her birthday. But when it came time to settle the bill, I couldn't pay no matter what, and it made Lisa lose a lot of face. Now she broke up with me. Before 1 yen, that beauty who walked out of your office just now looked even prettier than Lisa. What a hot figure! Is she a new employee in our company? Xie Yunfei suddenly changed the subject. What Xie Jing dreaded the most was exactly this. It was bad enough Xie Yunfei fooled around outside, now he even wanted to bring such unhealthy tendencies into Qing'an. Dad, what's that girl's name just now? I suddenly feel that breaking up with Lisa isn't a bad thing. Why don't I pursue her instead? What do you think, is an office romance really that bad? She looks so pretty, maybe she can make me settle down. As he spoke, Xie Yunfei rubbed his palms together with a gleeful expression. Dad, haven't you always said I don't come into work? Look, starting tomorrow, I'll come to work every day. If you had told me earlier that our company had such pretty female employees, wouldn't my work passion have been aroused long ago? Xie Jing truly wanted to curse out his useless son. Was chasing girls the only proper matter in his brain? Other than being good at chasing girls, did he have any other talents? But suddenly, wait a minute. As Xie Jing looked at his womanizing son, inspiration struck him like lightning. Although his son was usually worthless, he was tall and handsome. Because he liked socializing and cared about appearances, he worked out regularly and kept his body in good shape. His features were handsome too, although the dark eye circles from alcohol and partying took away from it somewhat. But overall, he was considered rather attractive in this circle, not on Xie Cheng's level but ahead in being smooth-talking and romantic. Plus he was free-spending when chasing girls, able to easily spout sweet nothings. As a result, he was quite popular with the ladies. Hadn't he even bragged to Xie Jing before about chasing that famously aloof national little flower goddess within a month? So since his son was so adept at this, why not take advantage of his skills? If he were sent to pursue Lan Shi and steal Xie Cheng's girl, also promising Lan Shi the position of Qing'an's future boss's wife, wouldn't that be an even bigger bait than just Qing'an's boss's wife? She might switch back to his side. Then all of Xie Cheng's business information would fall into his hands through Lan Shi. Moreover, after stalking Xie Cheng for so long, Lan Shi must know some of his other secrets and weaknesses too. As long as he had Lan Shi, she would naturally reveal everything to him. The more Xie Jing thought about this, the more spirited he became. Even his useless son now looked barely satisfactory. Xie Jing took a sip of tea to moisten his throat, then amiably looked toward Xie Yunfei. "My son, this girl is called Lan Shi. She works at Qing'an. Now I do need you to put your heart into pursuing her. The most important thing in being successful is keeping calm under fire and turning disadvantages into advantages. That's how it will be done." Xie Jing refuses to admit defeat until the end. After Lan Shi's failed marriage proposal, she fell into a deep sense of disappointment. To make matters worse, Chowan recovered from his leg injury and returned to the company. Xie Cheng started accompanying Chowan again, depriving Lan Shi of any chance to be close to Xie Cheng. Recently, Xie Cheng even went on business trips with Chowan, making it impossible for Lan Shi to even catch a glimpse of them, let alone make further progress in winning him over. Could it be that not only did her marriage proposal fail, but her girlfriend's job was also at risk of being laid off? However, although Xie Cheng was away on business trips, Qing'an remained quite lively, and even more popular than when Xie Cheng was around. Thank you all for your hard work. Today, on behalf of Qingxin, I bring warmth and comfort from our sister company. These peaches and cherries were just freshly picked from the orchard. Help yourselves. These desserts are from the newly opened dessert shop downstairs. They're here for our afternoon tea. Coffee or milk tea? Take your pick. During the break time in the past few days, a man in an expensive suit would always show up, smiling and bringing all kinds of food. Qing'an's atmosphere became much livelier. Although Lan Shi was troubled by Xie Cheng's emotional state, she couldn't resist the temptation of the food. While eating pudding, she asked Liang Di, "Who is this?" "Lei Feng?" "It's not Lei Feng. This is Xie Yunfei, General Yunfei, the son of Xie Cheng and General Xia," Liang Di replied helplessly. "You shouldn't focus all your attention on Xie Cheng. What's so great about that scumbag? Aren't there plenty of men with two legs in this world?" As she spoke, Liang Di pointed to Xie Yunfei, who was chatting with the receptionist not far away. "Look, he's a prime example of a great man. Xie Yunfei is also good-looking, and although he may be a bit flirtatious, at least he's openly so. Unlike certain people who appear perfect on the surface but are scumbags behind closed doors." Liang Di clearly still held a grudge against Xie Cheng. She couldn't help but take a dig at him whenever she had the chance. Don't cling to one tree. If you compare Xia Cheng and Xia Yunfei, isn't Xia Yunfei wealthier? Besides, have you noticed? Xia Yunfei comes to console the employees at Ching'an. It's obvious he's not here just for the sake of alcohol. Haven't you noticed how many times his eyes have glanced at you? He probably has some interest in you. Why else would he frequently come to our company and give us money? Qingxin and Ching'an are independent companies. Calling them sister companies is just an intentional connection. Why would he come to us and give money if not for some other reason? Lan Shi was momentarily uninterested in Xia Yunfei's intentions. Her mind was now greatly shaken. Xia Cheng wasn't the wealthiest person here? Then, almost instantly, Lan Shi put down the pudding in her hand and walked to a secluded place to secretly make a phone call to Wang Jiqiang. Xia Cheng is not as wealthy as Xia Yunfei? When Wang Jiqiang received a call from Lan Shi, he was busy dealing with a dispute arising from the termination of an employee's contract. He was extremely stressed and, upon hearing Lan Shi's question, felt somewhat helpless. He just wanted to quickly resolve the matter for Lan Shi. Princess, although Qingxin was established by Xia Cheng's parents, the control and power now mostly lie in Xia Jing's hands. Naturally, Xia Jing intends to leave it to Xia Yunfei in the future. So, it's true that Xia Yunfei is richer than Xia Cheng. But didn't Xia Jing plan to give the company back to Xia Cheng? Initially, he arranged for me to join Qingxin and instructed me to assist Xia Cheng well, not to let him meet the wrong people. Ah. In order to put Xia Cheng on the right path, he even made me report every detail about Xia Cheng's situation. Lan Shi exclaimed. How is that possible? My princess, good things are naturally meant for one's immediate family. Saying it's for Xia Cheng is just a face-saving gesture. Who would take it seriously? Haven't you seen how Xia Jing and Xia Cheng don't get along? Wang Jiqiang was speechless. When dealing with Earthlings, remember the most important thing: don't listen to what they say, but observe what they do, because Earthlings are fond of insincerity. No wonder. They even asked me to steal Xia Cheng's system and data. Lan Shi finally realized it, albeit belatedly. But the most pressing matter at hand is: you previously said that conquering Xia Cheng would lead to conquering Earth. But if Xia Yunfei is richer than Xia Cheng, why does conquering Xia Cheng alone equate to conquering Earth? It's illogical. Old Wang, did you deceive me? Do you know? Your behavior, on Earth, is called treason, and you'll end up in prison. Lan Shi accused angrily. Treason? That's so outdated. While replying to emails, Wang Jiqiang casually said, Princess, I haven't deceived you. If conquering Xia Cheng leads to conquering Earth, let's make a comparison. If conquering Xia Yunfei leads to conquering the universe. Do you understand the difference? The power struggles and interpersonal relationships among Earthlings are extremely complex. Wang Jiqiang felt that even if he explained it to Lan Shi now, she wouldn't understand. So he decided to be straightforward and blunt. In any case, if Xia Cheng is the center of Earth, then Xia Yunfei is the center of the universe. Princess, have you heard of the Crown Prince? You can think of Xia Yunfei as the current Crown Prince, and as for Xia Cheng, he may be a useless Crown Prince. If you're lucky in the future, you'll become a local lord. By establishing a good relationship with Xia Cheng, flattering his immediate superior, Lan Shi could thrive in Qingxin and be as comfortable as a fish in water. But if she could win over Xia Yunfei and have a harmonious relationship with him, it would be like having a direct path to the center of power. She could easily transfer to the Qingxin Group headquarters and enjoy a job with fewer responsibilities and more money. Qingxin is a startup company with a large volume of business and a streamlined workforce, without any dead-end positions. But Ching'an is different. The departments in Chang'an are bloated, and there are plenty of idle positions. Up-to-date OVLS on OVL bin.cm. What Wang Jiqiang said was not entirely wrong, but what he didn't know was that with these words, he had thrown a nuclear bomb into Lan Shi's already turbulent life. After hanging up the phone, Lan Shi couldn't calm down for a long time. Damn Wang Jiqiang! Why didn't he say it earlier? Since it's possible to directly conquer the universe, why should one take the detour of conquering the earth? It would be much better to take one giant leap and reach the heavens. Spending so much time merely conquering the earth is a waste. Naturally, directly conquering the universe would better showcase the commanding and extraordinary nature of oneself as a princess. In an instant, Lan Shi swept away the frustration of her previous failed conquest of Xiaqing, and her spirits soared once again. She made a firm decision without hesitation. This time, she would directly focus on conquering the universe. Although she couldn't conquer Xiaqing, it didn't matter. Successful individuals always challenge the most difficult tasks. Lan Shi immediately made up her mind. Without any hesitation, she set her sights on conquering the universe. Through her previous experiences with Xiaqing, she had accumulated rich practical knowledge. This time, Lan Shi firmly believed that she had become more skilled and formidable. The only thing that made Lan Shi somewhat unhappy was that, even though the proposal had failed, she and Xiaqing had still formed an initial conquest relationship. In the language of Earthlings, they were considered boyfriend and girlfriend. According to the Earthling Moral Bottom Line section of the guidebook, it was unacceptable to have two love interests at the same time. If she conquered one, she couldn't conquer the other. If she abandoned Xiaqing and turned to conquer Xie Yunfei, would Xiaqing react extremely due to a massive shock? After all, the guidebook contained numerous cases, and who knows if Xiaqing would only realize her value after losing her. He might suddenly go crazy for love, and what if he wanted to seek death or go down that path with her? Lan Shi felt conflicted. She realized that deep down, she didn't actually want Xiaqing to die. But, why did he refuse her proposal? If they had agreed to marry, then Lan Shi believed that her grand plan of conquering the universe would have been temporarily set aside. After all, according to the experiences of the Mui star people, conquering one planet was enough. As long as she conquered Xiaqing and then gradually conquered the Earth, Lan Shi would stop and spare the universe. Lan Shi felt a bit resentful, and her emotions became complicated. On one hand, she naturally believed that those who achieve great things shouldn't be bothered by trivial matters. As a princess, she couldn't let herself be hindered by such small things and had to prioritize the bigger picture. But on the other hand, thinking about how Xiaqing hadn't done anything wrong, how he had been loyal to her, and how he had already been conquered and slept with her, it would be very pitiful if she abandoned him. He might cry for 3 days and 3 nights when he found out what he had lost, especially when he realized that he had lost her. He might even lose his sanity. Although Liang Di kept insisting that Xiaqing was a scumbag, Lan Shi knew that once she conquered the universe and revealed her identity, Xiaqing would become a target of public criticism, marked as the ex-boyfriend of a princess. Who would want to take on that burden? In the end, he would be the one who suffered. In reality, the life and death of Earthlings had nothing to do with her. Xiaqing was merely a passerby on her journey of conquering the Earth and the universe. There was no need to care, yet Lan Shi couldn't help but feel restless and absent-minded. She comforted herself. After all, she was on Earth, where the local powers couldn't be overwhelmed by outside forces. It was wise not to offend any Earthling, a strategy that required intelligence. Therefore, that night, Lan Shi once again picked up the guidebook for conquering Earthlings and delved into it for further study. Tomorrow, Xiaqing and Chaowen would be returning from their business trip, and she had to be well prepared before seeing Xiaqing again. Lan Shi stayed up all night and finally memorized the entire section on how to gracefully break up with an Earthling. The next day, with dark circles under her eyes, She confidently walked towards the company. She had made preparations in advance, and the guidebook had already provided various scenarios on how to break up with an Earthling. All she needed to do was adapt and recite the corresponding lines, setting the mood right for a smooth and amicable breakup. When breaking up with an Earthling in a gentle manner, it is customary to give the other person a good person card. If necessary, you can fire a breakup cannon and prepare a breakup gift for the other person. Avoid using harsh words during the breakup and console the emotional state of the Earthling being broken up with. This is a good way for Earthlings to part ways peacefully. At the same time, try to avoid directly mentioning the word breakup, as it may be too provocative. Instead, use the art of Earthling language to propose separation in a more tactful manner. Following the instructions in the guidebook, She stayed up all night to create 7 different colored cards: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet. Each card had the word good person written in different fonts. As for the cannons, although She was initially confused, considering that it was supposed to be a peaceful breakup, she couldn't understand why cannons were necessary. But upon careful consideration, it made sense. After all, she needed to demonstrate sufficient force and deterrence to qualify for a peaceful negotiation. She realized that breakup cannons were based on this principle, a strategy of diplomacy before warfare. If you disagreed with my peaceful breakup, then I would resort to military suppression. Impressive! Earthlings truly possessed profound philosophies of war, even when it came to breaking up. As a result, She placed orders on a delivery platform overnight, purchasing mortars, rocket launchers, and artillery, among other things, and brought all these cannons to the company, just in case. To break up, it was best to catch the other person in a good mood, and Earthlings generally felt good after work. After careful consideration, She decided to block Xiaqing in the company's parking garage today and cut to the chase. The good person cards and cannons were all in place. Additionally, She prepared several large boxes of tissues so that if Xiaqing found out and started crying, there would be enough tissues to wipe away his tears and runny nose. In this way, as a noble princess, she showed him her final tenderness and thoughtfulness. After Chowan returned, Xiaqing felt that his life during their business trips had finally become regular and predictable. Chowan was always reliable and composed, skilled at handling various matters, unlike Shi, who was accident-prone and caused unexpected incidents. Since clearly rejecting Shi last time, she had behaved herself for a while. However, during the business trip, she didn't initiate contact with Xiaqing even once. This should have been a good thing, but surprisingly, Xiaqing started feeling annoyed. Shi's sudden silence was more unsettling than her usual lively behavior, making people suspect that she might be up to something mischievous. Even after returning to Qingxin, Shi didn't rush into her own office right away. I heard that Shi has been diligently analyzing data these past few days, which is quite normal. But if there's something special to mention, it's Xia Yunfei's frequent visits to Qingxin. He either brings desserts or milk tea, and he seems to be quite friendly with the receptionists and a few administrative girls. Other than that, I haven't heard anything, someone said. Xia Yunfei was always flirtatious, so it wasn't surprising that he had set his sights on one of the beautiful receptionists at Qingxin. However, it sounded more dangerous when it involved Shi, who usually minded her own business and avoided trouble. Fortunately, Xiaqing's anxiety was finally relieved when it was time to leave work. As he approached his car in the parking lot, he found Shi standing in front of it, wearing a serious expression. "Xiaqing, I need to talk to you," Shi said. While Xiaqing let out a sigh of relief, he also had a sense of inevitability. His rejection hadn't made Shi give up hope. Her silence was merely a sign that she was planning her next move. Looking at Shi's beautiful face, with determination shining in her eyes, Xiaqing felt a mixture of helplessness and a slight sense of satisfaction. "Yes, considering Lan Shi's feelings for him, he had been too naive to think that a simple rejection would make her give up. It wasn't wrong to like someone, and although her infatuation caused him some trouble, he couldn't blame her too much. Xiaqing pondered how to reject her more tactfully, making Lan Shi understand the significance of it and helping her transition through this heartbreak peacefully. However, before he could think of a solution, Lan Shi spoke up. Xiaqing, I feel that our previous relationship can no longer continue, Lan Shi declared. Xiaqing was taken aback. Was she intending to reject him? Unfortunately, Lan Shi didn't give Xiaqing a chance to speak. She continued, I want us to revert to a normal employee-boss relationship. Bearing the burden of protecting you is too heavy, you know? Lan Shi's face showed a rare hint of embarrassment. She seemed to carefully choose her words, saying, after much consideration, I think it's best for you to keep your own life. Would that be acceptable to you? Xiaqing was greatly surprised by this, but after a moment of thought, he found it quite reasonable. After all, aside from their professional relationship during work hours, it was clear that if he continued as her part-time bodyguard in their personal time, their dynamic would change. Moreover, with Chao An's return, it was only natural for Lan Shi to resign. It even provided a flawless reason for her to meet him privately. However, Xiaqing believed that there must be something else she wanted to discuss. Judging by Lan Shi's body language, she was incredibly tense, as if facing a formidable enemy. Xiaqing didn't want to make things difficult for her, so he simply nodded and said, all right, let's maintain our original working relationship. Lan Shi had prepared herself for a long battle, but to her surprise, Xiaqing readily agreed to her gentle breakup declaration without hesitation. He remained calm and indifferent. This saved Lan Shi a lot of trouble. Although it should have been great news, Lan Shi felt inexplicably annoyed. She had broken up with him. Yet he showed no signs of pain, not even a hint of reluctance. How could he be so nonchalant about it? It was such a waste for her to prepare tissues, a kind-hearted card, and break-up artillery for this occasion. She had even spent a considerable amount of money on shopping. But Xiaqing didn't seem to care at all, not even a trace of emotional fluctuation. Liang Di had been right. Xiaqing was a scumbag, a trash. Once she conquered the universe, the first thing she would do is capture Xiaqing and give him some proper education. He needed a serious transformation. Lan Shi was furious, her eyes almost spewing fire. She had already come up with 500 plans on how to deal with Xiaqing once she ascended to power and conquered Earth and the universe. Lan Shi glared at Xiaqing fiercely and took a deep breath. I had all these things prepared in advance since you once risked your life for me. Consider them as gifts, take them with you. The kind-hearted card and the artillery were not used, but since she had bought them, she couldn't let them go to waste. She would treat it as a charity and leave them for Xiaqing. Lan Shi left these words in a huff, pointing to the bag in the corner, then walked away without looking back. There will be plenty of moments for Xiaqing to regret in the future. Just wait until she marries Xie Yunfei, makes money, conquers Earth and the universe. Then they will see, Xiaqing. You just wait for me. Xiaqing watched Lan Shi's departing figure with some surprise, and when he opened the bag she had left him, he was even more astonished. What is this? Does it mean she supports the LGBT community? Xiaqing looked at the cards in various colors, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple, puzzled. And the assortment of children's toy cannons by the side left him completely baffled. But what surprised Xiaqing even more was Chaoan. Since learning that Lan Shi was a member inserted by Xie Jing, Chaoan had been wary of her. However, during the time since his injury, Lan Shi hadn't caused any trouble and had been quite dedicated to her work, which made Chaoan change his opinion. But ever since he stumbled upon Lan Shi and Xiaqing hiding in the closet, his feelings towards her had become complicated. No wonder she had never done anything to harm Xiaqing despite being an undercover agent for Xiaqing. It turned out she had fallen head over heels for Xiaqing. Chaowen had learned more about the situation from his girlfriend, Lian Di. It was evident that Xiaqing, their boss, hadn't taken this relationship seriously. He was clearly driven by lust rather than genuine affection, while Lan Shi had already fallen hard for him. Even this gift she had prepared held significant meaning. It was widely known that Xiaqing's parents died in a car accident when he was young, and since then, his world had lost its color, and his childhood came to an end. Several cards in shades of red, orange, yellow, green, blue, and purple, though simple, carried profound symbolism, representing the hope that Xiaqing's future life could be vibrant and colorful. And those toy bullets symbolized the deep significance of trying to compensate for Xiaqing's broken childhood. This gift may not have been expensive, but it was heartfelt. Unfortunately, Xiaqing completely missed the point. Chaowen immediately felt sympathy for Lan Shi's lingering feelings and couldn't help but explain the profound meaning behind these gifts. As expected, this made Xiaqing suddenly realize the significance and touched his heart. Sigh. It's quite unfortunate to fall in love with a man like Xiaqing, but to be unable to attain his affections. It seems that in the end, it will only lead to heartbreak. After giving it some thought, Chaowen couldn't resist and, taking advantage of the moment when Xiaqing received a business call, made a decision. He took out his cherished booklet and hurriedly went to find Lan Shi. As Lan Shi walked back, cursing Xiaqing in his heart, he suddenly heard Chaowen's voice from behind. Based on the popular Earth TV dramas Lan Shi had watched a few days ago, many Earth men, especially domineering CEOs, have a hard time opening up about their feelings. When breaking up, they would wear a cold and indifferent expression, but internally, they would suffer greatly. However, to maintain their pride, they wouldn't easily give in and would often seek the assistance of their assistants, friends, or relatives. Now that Chaowen was chasing after him, could it be? Clearly, Chaowen was very anxious, and after catching up with Lan Shi, he was panting. Look at how flustered he is. It must be that Xiaqing saw that I truly left and couldn't hold it in any longer. Lan Shi refused to believe that an Earth man, especially one who was her boyfriend, could be so calm when she broke up with him. She suppressed her previous unhappiness and gradually started to feel excited. Controlling her emotions and the pounding of her heart, she made an effort to maintain a calm expression and then looked at Chaowen. What's the matter? According to the typical plot progression in Earth TV dramas, Chaowen would immediately plead with her to reconcile with Xiaqing, saying lines like, "Once you left, CEO Ching started throwing tantrums. Only you are his talisman." It would go something like that. Faced with such lines, initially, she should assert her principles and, after a few rounds of pushing and pulling, go along with the flow. However, after gasping for breath for half a day, when Chaowen finally regained his composure, he didn't say the lines Lan Shi was expecting. Contrary to the script of the TV drama, he took out a booklet he was holding in his hand and handed it to Lan Shi solemnly. Lan Shi was puzzled and looked closely. International Bodyguard Qualification Certification and Examination. What's this? Chaowen smiled shyly and said, "During the time you protected CEO Cheng, you worked hard. I misjudged you before. Your part-time job as a bodyguard was excellent. Although you said you're no longer working as a bodyguard, I think you should take a look at this book and get a certification. Having multiple certificates opens up more opportunities. There's currently a high demand for female bodyguards, and you have exceptional abilities. This profession offers better income than a typical office job." Lan Shi was filled with immense confusion. A bodyguard? When did she have any connection to being a bodyguard? And she was a part-time bodyguard for Xiaqing? Wasn't she supposed to have conquered him and become his girlfriend? I protect Xia Cheng? I'm Xia Cheng's bodyguard? Chowan nodded. Of course, didn't you ask him to entrust his life to you? But now you don't have to burden yourself with it. From now on, I will take charge of Cheng's life. Trust me, I will protect him well and fulfill my duties. Also, you don't need to be overly attached to certain things. Sometimes, we can only go with the flow. She felt like her brain had almost lost its ability to think. She stared at the bodyguard certification in her hand and finally realized where things had gone wrong. Entrust his life to me, and in your eyes, that's being a bodyguard? She gritted her teeth and emphasized each word. Don't you read online novels? Don't you know about give my life to you literature? Is it the same as pinching the waist and kissing literature, eyes turned red literature, or explosive literature? Chowan shook his head in confusion. What are those? His reaction said it all. She felt the world spinning around her. She was so angry that her eyes turned red, and she truly felt like she was going to explode. So she never really conquered Xia Cheng from beginning to end? She was never Xia Cheng's girlfriend? She tried to suppress her emotions. So, Xia Cheng has been treating me as a part-time bodyguard after you got injured? Yes. Chowan looked somewhat worried. Why do you look so pale? Are you okay? So, the extra money she received each month was the salary of a part-time bodyguard? Accompanying her to various occasions was not about being close, but she was a bodyguard. Faced with the shocking truth, she almost fainted. She, the noble Princess Mui Star, made fierce moves like a tiger, but when she turned around and looked, she found herself at 0 to 5. As it turned out, she had never successfully conquered Xia Cheng, not even for a minute. He actually dared to treat her as a bodyguard. She felt like she was going to explode. Xia Cheng brought home a car full of various types of children's firecrackers, feeling rather complicated. Chowan's words had moved him quite a bit, and he soon felt irritable. Shi, who had no social skills, was still able to considerately and clumsily try to make up for the psychological trauma he had suffered from losing his parents. This showed that when you truly love someone, you can instinctively know how to treat them well without needing to be taught. It seemed that her feelings for him were sincere without any ulterior motives, simple and straightforward. It was just that, having grown up in a harsh environment since childhood and being unlike normal people without any proper guidance, she not only had no concept of socializing but also lacked common sense. That was why she had come up with that funeral parlor-style proposal. But her desire to be with him was probably ardent and unreserved. People often can't help but do many silly things after falling in love. Thinking of this, Xia Cheng felt more sympathetic towards Shi. He wondered if she was tossing and turning in bed at night, tormented on the inside and unable to vent after being rejected so decisively by him. Had he been too cold in his rejection? Even though he rejected her, couldn't he have done it in a more tactful way? Xia Cheng stared at the pile of children's toys, feeling a little insomnia. But while he just had insomnia, it was probably much better than Shi's heartbreak. After all, many people have fallen into depression after heartbreak. Shi already had flaws in how she handled her emotions and social interactions. Now that she was heartbroken, would she really not be able to recover from the blow? Meow. Looking at the stray cat he had taken in previously, Xia Cheng decided to find an opportunity in a few days to give the cat to Shi. It was said that pets can heal all unhappiness. Having this cat for company would surely make Shi's heartbreak less difficult to bear. On the other hand, Xia Yunfei also suffered from insomnia. He was in a state of complete excitement. The kind of thrilling feeling of hunting prey had washed over him again, making him feel exceptionally spirited. This Shi had provoked in him a sense of conquest. According to Xie Yunfei's plan, he had naturally and seamlessly used the excuse of rewarding Chang'an's employees to frequently appear at Chang'an. He had also become familiar with the front desk and some administrative staff from delivering afternoon tea and coffee every day. This was the meticulous strategy he had devised to get close without making a sound. Beautiful women, especially gorgeous ones, never lacked pursuers. If he overtly and unabashedly pursued her directly, Lan Shi would most likely be unimpressed and he would lose the initiative and his air of mystery. After mingling in society for so many years, Xie Yunfei was well versed in these games. The more aloof and detached he appeared, and the more he naturalized every coincidental encounter without deliberate intentions, the more likely she would unknowingly fall into his trap, clinging onto him desperately with her heart, and then he could move in for the kill. Therefore, he had found a high-sounding excuse to indiscriminately provide all of Chang'an's employees with some small benefits. This allowed him to naturally and seamlessly appear before Lan Shi, drawing her attention and goodwill, without singling her out. A good hunter often appears in the guise of prey. This was the creed Xie Yunfei believed in. After delivering afternoon tea like this for several days in a row, it was time to reel her in, according to his experience. That afternoon, Xie Yunfei went to Chang'an as usual. I had just ordered in cheesecake online while on the way here. Chang'an and Chang'an are sibling companies, so I'm here to deliver a portion to Chang'an as well, not just Chang'an's employees. Visit no.v3lb/n.cm for new OVL. Boss Yunfei, you're too good to us. Feeding us like this, we'll all get fat. Xie Yunfei chatted with several administrative staff he was familiar with as usual and glanced over to see Lan Shi also getting up from her desk to go to the front desk for cake with her colleagues. This was the moment he had been waiting for. Xie Yunfei cleared his throat, feigning a casual manner. Oh right, this afternoon I was originally going to the symphony with a friend, but my friend had something come up last minute and stood me up. Now I have an extra ticket. Why don't I give it to one of you as a bonus as well, to go with me to listen to the symphony together? Although Xie Yunfei had a playboy reputation, he was rather good-looking. Adding to that, his frequent thoughtful deliveries to Ching in these past few days made him seem very thoughtful and easy to get along with. Topped off with his status as Xie Jing's precious son, he had gained quite some popularity among Chang'an's female employees over the past few days. Sure enough, several of the administrative staff he was familiar with immediately responded enthusiastically. That sounds good. Boss Yunfei. Xie Yunfei smiled faintly. If I had known you guys would be so interested, I would have gotten more tickets. But they're all sold out now and my friend just happened to free up one ticket. To be fair, why don't we do it this way? I'll pick a lucky number. Whoever was the nth person to take cake corresponding to that number will answer a simple riddle for a common idiom. If you answer correctly, then you'll be the lucky member of the audience. If you're willing, you can come with me to listen to the symphony concert. Consider it an alternative form of employee benefits. What Xie Yunfei said sounded very fair and reasonable. Seeing that no one objected, he then said a number based on his observations just now. My lucky number is 5. Who was the 5th person to take cake? Sure enough, after some quick counting, everyone pointed to Lan Shi. Lan Shi, you were the 5th. This move went off seamlessly and naturally. Xie Yunfei feigned a look of surprise on his face and then walked over to Lan Shi. Since we seem to have an affinity, I won't make things difficult for you. After he finished speaking, he casually but provocatively looked deeply at Lan Shi. Then he took out a piece of paper and wrote orchid quality, heart on it, fill in the missing character and I'll bring you along to listen to the symphony concert tonight too. Consider it an unconventional form of employee benefits. Predictably, some busybodies started teasing. Xie Yunfei was very close to Lan Shi right then, close enough to see every detail on her face. This woman really was gorgeous, skin as delicate as rose petals, every inch seemed to be an exquisitely sculpted work of art with smooth, refined features that came together into an appearance that was beautiful yet emanated elegance and class. Xie Yunfei couldn't help but feel somewhat spellbound. His relationships with girlfriends tended to expire after 3 months at most, but at that moment, he felt that after getting Lan Shi, playing with her for a while wouldn't be so bad either. She was just too good-looking, completely exceeding the norms for beauty. She stood in a class of her own. This 4-character idiom was also something Xie Yunfei had prepared in advance. Everyone knew orchid quality, gentle spirit. And the missing Lan character that Lan Shi had to fill in resonated with Lan Shi's name by coincidence. After Lan Shi filled it in, she would inevitably feel a sense of her heartstrings being plucked unknowingly, as if she was being singled out on purpose, yet it also seemed unintentional on his part. The main appeal was this feeling of nervous speculation. Xie Yunfei looked at Lan Shi, and Lan Shi looked back at him too. Xie Yunfei expected Lan Shi's heartbeat to quicken from nervous excitement, and Lan Shi's heart did indeed beat faster, but not from thrill, it was from anxiety. Orchid quality, what heart? Lan Shi didn't know. Although the time she had spent on Earth researching the guide and watching TV shows was not short, most colloquial language didn't use idioms. As a result, Lan Shi had not consciously studied and accumulated idiom vocabulary. What was orchid quality something hard again? She felt like she had heard it somewhere before. It seemed a bit familiar, but she just couldn't remember what character it was no matter how hard she racked her brains. Was this Xie Yunfei deliberately making things difficult for her? Moreover, after coming to Earth, Lan Shi had only learned how to type. After all, there was still speech recognition to fall back on even at her worst, and for writing, she only needed to learn how to sign her own name. There was no need to learn how to write other characters at all. But now, Xie Yunfei had given her a piece of paper and asked her to fill in. But from the looks in people's eyes, this idiom probably wasn't considered difficult for the people of Earth. So if Lan Shi couldn't fill it out, it would seem very abnormal, and by extension, her identity might also be exposed. As depicted in Earth's movies, aliens would ultimately always get captured and dissected. Just thinking about this made Lan Shi shudder all over. She even forgot what facial expression she should have in this kind of situation. She had to think of another way. Lan Shi started searching the guide's catalog of standard Earthling excuses. When faced with an unwanted invitation, just saying you're feeling unwell will do. And the most perfect and difficult to disprove reason for feeling unwell was an allergy. Xie Yunfei originally had victory in his grasp, however, beyond his expectations, Lan Shi, facing his overture of such a fortuitous opportunity, instead had no expression the entire time, coldly making Xie Yunfei doubt life itself. She just sat there coldly looking at the slip of paper she had written on the table, then finally, swept Xie Yunfei a glance and left after tossing out a sentence. She said, "I'm allergic to symphonic music. Let someone else have this opportunity." Until Lan Shi had walked far away, he stared at her retreating figure, still completely in shock. Not giving face like that? No, the cakes and desserts he had given her, she had come to eat every time, so she had seen through his tricks, and thus countered to turn defeat into victory. This Lan Shi is quite the expert. It seems being subtle would be seen as lacking in sincerity by the other side. Xie Yunfei thought it over and decided to go all out with his ultimate move, invest heavily, directly and simply express his intentions, then swiftly decide the outcome. After Lan Shi left, she felt very frustrated. Actually, last night she had been pissed off by that jerk Xie Cheng and hadn't slept the entire night, only with great difficulty finally building up her psychological composure. A princess could not be disturbed by emotions. She needed to swiftly move to the next step. The early period had been too much time wasted on that garbage Xie Cheng. She must speed up the pace of conquering Xie Yunfei and conquering the universe. Luckily she had read the Earthling Conquest Guide section on how to get Earthmen under control, so for Lan Shi it wouldn't be a total waste of time. Just that today, folding unexpectedly, they all said for conquering Earthmen you have to show your excellent side. Today should have been a good chance to show she was cultured, unfortunately. But no problem, since she had made up her mind, Lan Shi felt she could still create new opportunities. Besides, being cultured wasn't her strong suit anyway. Using Earthling terminology, her brain power was quite simple, only her 4 limbs were exceptionally developed. So it would be best to find a chance to show Xia Yunfei her powerful strength. She couldn't believe any man could still not be conquered under such power. In the afternoon, Xia Yunfei unexpectedly came to Qing'an again. This time, he walked straight to Lan Shi and said bluntly, "Come outside with me for a minute." Was this about work? Lan Shi unsuspectingly followed Xia Yunfei out of the office area. He wore a freshly pressed suit and also looked rather steady, smiling as he directly brought Lan Shi into a small compartment in a coffee shop. I think the most sincere feelings are those without decoration. After Lan Shi had sat down and they ordered drinks, Xia Yunfei cleared his throat and said, "So I've decided to directly clarify my position." After speaking, Xia Yunfei took out a small box and slid it in front of Lan Shi. "This is a gift for our first meeting," he said. Then he revealed an appropriately bashful smile to Lan Shi. "Sorry, I should have been more direct yesterday. I happened to pass by a jewelry store today and saw this pair of diamond earrings that I felt matched you perfectly. Before I realized it, I had bought them. So although it's a bit presumptuous, I still asked you out to give them to you." Xia Yunfei was well practiced with this tactic. He opened the jewelry box, revealing the diamond earrings inside. I know diamonds can sound a bit like an IQ tax, but diamonds are the hardest mineral in nature. They have the simplest composition but can exist permanently over long times. You make me think of diamonds. Xia Yunfei looked deeply at Lan Shi. "Although your appearance is very beautiful, I can still see your strong soul. You're not the same as other pretty girls. You have your own ideas, principles. In your eyes I see a radiance and firmness even stronger than diamonds." A woman as beautiful as Lan Shi had surely heard herself praised for her looks countless times, so complimenting the obvious would have no impact. What was key was to compliment from an unexpected angle, praise a beauty for having an inner strength and resoluteness, as that could swiftly unlock her heart, making her look at you in a new light as a confidant. Sure enough, after Xia Yunfei finished speaking, Lan Shi revealed a finally understood excitement. "You can see my power is even harder than diamonds?" Although the initial battle that morning had failed, after adjusting strategy the afternoon effort succeeded easily, right? Xia Yunfei met Lan Shi's gaze and gently nodded. "Yes, I can completely sense your power. Actually, what attracts me isn't your appearance, but this power of yours." A beautiful woman was like this. Not actually very clever, but easy to fool. As long as some unexpected sweet words and compliments were given, they would be disoriented. Although Lan Shi was a beauty, in brain she seemed no different from other women Xia Yunfei had associated with in the past. Even though she had astonishingly claimed to be allergic to symphonic music that morning, directly refusing to give him face, in the afternoon wasn't she still easily captured under the naked diamond attack and sugar-coated artillery fire? See, just these few casual contrary-to-heart compliments were enough to get her excited. Heaven gave some women beauty, but no corresponding wisdom. As Xia Yunfei expected, Lan Shi was indeed extremely excited. She felt she had finally found the right person. Finally there was someone who could appreciate her power surpassing diamonds. That idiot Xiaqing didn't see her great power as a treasure. Of course someone with insight would understand and admire it. For conquering Xia Yunfei this time Lan Shi felt assured of success. She looked at the other side and said enthusiastically, "Would you like me to show you my power surpassing the hardness of diamonds?" Xia Yunfei was startled, but soon laughed. I would be happy to watch your demonstrations for the rest of my life. No, there's no need for that long. Lan Shi hurriedly waved her hands. I can show you right now. After speaking, she took the diamond earrings from the box and placed them in front of Xia Yunfei. Watch. Lan Shi raised her fist towards the diamonds. Bang! Together with a short sharp sound, Xia Yunfei felt the table in front of him seem to shake. The entire little compartment was like experiencing a minor earthquake. When he steadied himself and looked at the table again, his pupils shook. The diamond earrings that just now rested on the table had vanished without a trace, replaced by a pile of powder. So just now she had. See it? My power really is harder than diamonds. With one fist the diamonds turned right into diamond powder. Lan Shi gave an embarrassed smile. Mainly the diamond earrings you gave were a bit small. I actually don't feel I fully displayed my power. If next time you can bring bigger carat diamonds, I can still smash them with one fist. I'll properly show you my true skill level. The gorgeous appearance of the Lan Shi across from him was still untouched. Her gaze was candid and pure, seemingly easy to deceive. Her tone was also very calm. But her words left Xia Yunfei unable to calm down for a long time. Was this even human? This simply wasn't a human level of power. Xia Yunfei was so shocked that he even forgot how to speak for a moment. He just stared at Lan Shi dumbfoundedly, still not willing to believe it. He looked around on the ground desperately. The diamond really was gone. And in the powder that used to be the diamond earring, he could vaguely see the crystalline particles that belonged to his poor earrings. The indecent thoughts Xia Yunfei originally had towards Lan Shi due to her appearance vanished instantly when faced with her formidable power. With Lan Shi's capabilities, even if he succeeded in wooing her, what if she wanted to break up one day? Would he even be able to get away from her? What if she got angry because he mentioned splitting up and made him disappear just like she did to the diamond earring on the table? What's more, she even wanted him to buy her a bigger carat diamond to pound. Although Xia Yunfei was willing to spend some money during the initial pursuit, he did not plan on splurging large amounts. His surging hormones instantly cooled down. Following his survival instincts, he stammered with some difficulty, "There's no need to demonstrate further. I completely believe that you possess a strength harder than diamond. There is no need to waste time proving yourself again. In my heart, you are already the best." Xia Yunfei felt that he needed a long-term strategy to win over Lan Shi. He had to formulate a new battle plan. Diamonds were clearly out of the question. However, I came to deliver afternoon tea a few days ago and saw that you really enjoyed eating them. How about after work today, I'll take you out to eat dessert. It would be better to keep things normal and go to a dessert shop. That way, he wouldn't have to spend too much money and there wouldn't be any potential danger either. Xia Yunfei felt that would be the safer option compared to extravagant gifts. As expected, when Lan Shi heard the words dessert, her face revealed a naive, yearning look like that of a baby deer's. That would be wonderful. Can I eat until I'm full? Seeing such a beauty look at him with eyes like that, Xia Yunfei's heart melted entirely. His hormones rushed to his brain again. Unable to restrain himself, he grasped Lan Shi's hand and stroked it gently. Of course, eat as much as you want. They were just going to eat some desserts, how much could that cost? Xia Yunfei felt that although there were some minor setbacks, his overall strategy to pursue Lan Shi was on the right track. With the launch date of the new weather system drawing near, Xiaqing had been extremely busy lately. He didn't even have time to eat proper meals. The constant business trips and meetings made even the usually energetic him feel a little worn out. Luckily, it was almost the weekend. He had finished handling everything for this week and could relax a bit. After visiting a client, Xiaqing had to rush back to the company because there was a contract at Wang Yan's desk that required his signature. It was already past regular office hours and some employees had left. Glancing over, Xiaqing saw no one at Lan Shi's desk. She had gone as well. Wang Yan, on the other hand, was still working diligently, analyzing data on her computer screen. Seeing Xiaqing, she immediately got up with the contract in hand and followed him into his office. "Senior, this is the contract that requires your signature." Xiaqing examined the contract closely before signing his name. He gave Wang Yan a smile. "You've worked hard these past few days with the overtime. You should head home early too." Wang Yan replied with a smile, "It's my duty, senior. I don't have evening plans to eat at trendy shops like Lan Shi does with Director Xia. As a single woman, I don't have much of a nightlife either, so I might as well stay and work overtime diligently." After being told off by Xiaqing previously, Wang Yan originally expected him to teach Lan Shi a lesson. Yet despite waiting eagerly, there was no action from Xiaqing's side. Instead, she witnessed Xia Yunfei frequently coming and going from Qingxian these past few days. What left her speechless was that Lan Shi, who was so focused on seducing Xiaqing for a promotion previously, had suddenly changed her target. This morning, Wang Yan saw Xia Yunfei take Lan Shi out alone. When she returned, Wang Yan overheard them confirm the dessert shop to meet at that evening. That shameless woman! She must inform Xiaqing about this. Wang Yan refused to believe anyone could tolerate a woman trying to sit on two chairs repeatedly like this. Xiaqing was aware of Xia Yunfei's actions lately. Given his playboy personality, even if he wanted to fool around with a pretty receptionist or admin staff from Qingxian, Xiaqing didn't mind. After all, those were very replaceable positions. However, after being reminded by Wang Yan, Xiaqing realized something. The most good-looking person in Qingxian wasn't a front desk staff member or admin, it was Lan Shi. Although he didn't want to admit it, she did possess a face gifted by the heavens. It was only natural for Xia Yunfei to have his eyes on her. Xiaqing had rejected Lan Shi clearly. Logically, it was normal for her to start a new relationship and interact with other men. It was a necessary process for her to move on. Yet Xiaqing couldn't make himself feel happy about it at all. But on second thought, it was natural he couldn't feel happy, because the other person was Xia Yunfei. He knew Xia Yunfei's character all too well. One was a seasoned playboy while the other was socially awkward and innocent. What's more, Lan Shi was definitely still heartbroken over his rejection. She was also silly and naive. Wasn't this the perfect opportunity for someone to take advantage? As a good citizen with a strong sense of justice and responsibility, how could he stand by and watch such depravity unfold beside him under the sunlight? Besides, Lan Shi had such a simple mind and endured so many tragic violations in the past already. She was pitiful enough to be considered a vulnerable group. As her superior now, Xiaqing felt that he could not, under any circumstances, allow her to continue being mistreated by trash like Xia Yunfei. Of course, although Wang Yan asserted firmly that Lan Shi would be meeting Xia Yunfei tonight, Xiaqing knew that it was impossible for two reasons. Firstly, just yesterday Lan Shi had stubbornly given him that meaningful gift, those toy tanks and toy guns meant to fill the void of his deprived childhood. The thought still touched Xiaqing deeply. Clearly Lan Shi was very different from ordinary girls, but emotions were universal. Her feelings for him ran evidently deeper than Xiaqing imagined. He didn't believe someone with feelings like hers could detach and enter a new relationship so quickly. Hence, no matter how hard Xia Yunfei tried to seduce her now, Xiaqing believed Lan Shi would give him no reaction or even nice attitude. Therefore, despite what Wang Yan claimed, Xiaqing remained composed, for he was almost 100% certain that Lan Shi would absolutely not be with Xia Yunfei tonight. Her feelings for himself ran too deep. She still hadn't given up. How could she possibly accept Xia Yunfei's invitation so casually? Still, knowing Xie Yunfei had set his sights on Lan Shi made Xiaqing somewhat annoyed. While Lan Shi would steadfastly ignore his pursuit, there was no guaranteeing what underhanded methods Xie Yunfei might use if faced with long-term rejection. After all, being pestered by someone you dislike could be extremely disturbing. Perhaps it wasn't urgent for tonight, but Xiaqing felt he should lend Lan Shi a hand sooner or later. She liked him so much after all. And her fondness for him was surely rooted in both appearances and moral character. Lan Shi followed Xie Yunfei to the trendy dessert shop eagerly, brimming with anticipation. But when they reached the entrance, there was already a long queue present despite having just passed regular office hours. This trendy store is wildly popular. Even during office hours, the queue is usually this long. Compared to other dessert shops, their boss doesn't have restrictive purchase limits per customer. Some trendy shops allow 1 or 2 items per person, but their shop has no limits. It's entirely based on the individual's discretion. Hence, if people in front buy more, those waiting behind have to wait even longer. However, their desserts have preset combinations daily that customers can't choose. Shop staff just need to be told the number of sets to purchase. This saves customers time from selecting, allowing them to sell out every day. After explaining, Xie Yunfei thoughtfully handed Lan Shi milk tea he had already bought. Have this first. We'll still have to wait a while. Among the many trendy dessert shops, Xie Yunfei chose this one in particular after careful consideration. Precisely because this shop had no purchase limits and a consistently long queue, it gave him ample opportunity during the waiting time to get closer to Lan Shi. And it unfolded exactly as Xie Yunfei planned. Chatting while queuing up to buy desserts, their conversations surprisingly flowed well. Xie Yunfei finally regained his previous enthusiasm, starting to feel they were making good progress. After buying the desserts, Xie Yunfei felt he could take the opportunity to lead the girl into a bar. After a few drinks got them in the mood, it would be smooth sailing to get a room. Finally, it was their turn in line according to Xie Yunfei's expectations. To make a stand, Xie Yunfei looked at Lan Shi intensely and generously. You can buy however many you want. Don't worry, even if I had to buy out this whole store, I could afford it. As long as I have money, you can spend however much you want. He said humorously with a smile to Lan Shi. It's just a shame the owner won't sell. Otherwise I would definitely buy this place and keep it open only for you from now on. Unlike now where we have to settle for waiting in line. Women love to hear these seemingly affectionate but empty boasts. Sure enough, Lan Shi couldn't restrain the lively emotion on her face. She stared at Xie Yunfei almost worshipfully. I can buy as many as I want. Stared at by such a beautiful woman, Xie Yunfei was of course emotionally aroused. Besides, how much could a few desserts cost? These women just wanted a stand. He immediately smiled charmingly. As many as you can eat. Brother has plenty of money. Hearing this, Lan Shi was overjoyed and couldn't help but mentally criticize Xiaqing. She felt more and more that Xie Yunfei had skill, while she had carefully studied the guidebook before, following it step by step. But not only did she fail to conquer Xiaqing, but Xiaqing, that blind man, even mistook her, such a noble princess, as a bodyguard. There must be something wrong with that man and his terrible judgment. This Xie Yunfei, on the other hand, her moves were very effective with his hot eager gaze. Wasn't that exactly the description in the guidebook of an earthling male falling to conquest? Since he'd already said buy as much as she wanted, then she wouldn't stand on ceremony. Lan Shi looked at the dessert shop clerk. How many desserts do you have left now? The clerk was stunned, then checked the inventory on the computer. There's 154 left. Lan Shi had clearly asked a question that the people lined up behind her cared about too. Hearing the clerk's answer, many people relaxed. There were still 154 left. Surely they would get some after waiting in line so long. But very quickly, they realized nothing could be happily assumed too soon. Lan Shi excitedly announced loudly, then I want all 154. She was completely oblivious to the resentful, angry looks behind her. Her eyes saw only the pretty desserts in the display case. Pack up half for me to take home, I'll eat the other half here. After Lan Shi spoke, she looked to Xia Yunfei at her side. You can pay now. But Xia Yunfei, who had boasted so strongly before about buying however much she wanted, now had a very complicated and awkward expression. Just before he seemed to wish to stand as close to Lan Shi as possible, but now his feet were clearly subtly moving away from Lan Shi, as if he wanted nothing more than to pretend he didn't know her. Called out by Lan Shi like this, he had no choice but to face up. How about not buying so many after all? You won't be able to eat them all and it'd be wasteful, and too many sweets can make you fat. There's still people waiting to buy things behind us. I can eat them. And I won't get fat. It was so nice they don't have a limit. You said I could buy however many I wanted. And that you even wanted to buy this place for me. Xia Yunfei had planned for countless possibilities, but didn't expect this to happen. The originally sweet and romantic mood of the love story took a sudden plunge downwards into current events. He didn't know if the girl was really stupid or just pretending to be stupid. With such a long line behind them, she actually wanted to buy out all the remaining stock herself. This was deliberately causing trouble. Sure enough, the people lined up behind them got upset. No manners at all. Shameless. I know there's no limit, but you should still have some self-awareness. Even if you buy a lot, you can't take all the remaining stock. We waited in line a long time too. Never seen such a shameless couple with no manners. Hey. Isn't that guy the rich playboy rumored to be in a hot romance with Lisa before? Weren't they passionately in love? How is he now here cheating with such an ill-mannered woman? The speaker took out his phone as he talked. I'm taking video of you shameless scum to expose online. The people lined up behind surrounded Xia Yunfei and Lan Shi. That's right, show some manners. If you have no manners, don't think about leaving. Xia Qing rarely didn't work overtime tonight. After a simple dinner, he'd originally planned to relax by reading before going to bed early. There would be non-stop financing and partnerships to handle after the weather analysis software went online, so he had to rest and store up energy during this brief respite from busyness. It would have been a wonderful night, but Xia Qing had just gotten into bed when he received a call from Lan Shi. Xia Qing! Come save me quick! Her voice carried impatience and helplessness, pitifully. The background was noisy. Clearly she was outside somewhere. Xia Qing was instantly alert. He rubbed between his brows, unable to keep the urgency from his voice. What happened? Where are you? Unfortunately, the signal seemed bad and it was too noisy around Lan Shi. It sounded like some argument happening, a few shrill female voices cursing near Lan Shi. Just in that brief few minutes call, Xia Qing caught words like shameless no class and other insults. Sure enough, she'd run into trouble. Send me your location, I'll come right away. Xia Qing grimly got out of bed and started changing clothes. Someone like Lan Shi, born completely socially oblivious and ignorant, if she ran into trouble and got surrounded outside, would probably have no way to resolve it herself. In Rome City without family or friends, the only one who could help her now was himself. Soon, Xia Qing finished dressing and rushed out, taking a shortcut and speeding to arrive near the location Lan Shi had sent. It was a shopping district with foot traffic. For this, Xia Qing had no choice but to park his car in a nearby parking garage, then ran towards the marked location. The slower he was by every minute, the longer Lan Shi would have to tough it out alone. He had to hurry. And so that night in the pedestrian street, many people saw a stern-faced man constantly pushing through the crowd, running inelegantly. Lan Shi was waiting for him. That was the only thought in Xia Qing's mind. The location she'd sent was a popular dessert shop. Without needing to look for it, he could tell where she was from the packed crowd blocking the shop's entrance completely. Xiaqing asked an old lady, "What's happening here?" The old lady cracked melon seeds as she shook her head. Kids nowadays have no manners at all. It was just a couple coming to buy things and bullying people. A couple? She was actually bullied by a couple. Xiaqing knew men in the throes of passion could be very protective, and some hot-headed men might even get physical with others over conflicts with their girlfriends, displaying their protective urges and ability. Swept up by mating instincts, these young men might lose restraint on their force. Xiaqing's face darkened as he pushed through the crowd towards the center. Sure enough, Shi stood there looking blank and frustrated, arguing something with another woman. Seeing Xiaqing, her face lit up with a saved expression and she immediately rushed over to grab Xiaqing's sleeve. "Xiaqing. Great you're here." Of course, with her deep infatuation for him, his coming to her rescue despite rejecting her must have moved her deeply. But before Xiaqing could ask just what had happened and which couple had bullied her, Shi went ahead and spoke first, pulling his hand. "Xiaqing. Quick, lend me some class." "What?" Xiaqing thought he misheard. "Quality." "I have no quality." Shi looked very eager. "I remember you said that not lining up is what's lacking in quality, but I didn't cut in line. I lined up properly and was going to pay money to buy desserts. But the people behind me scolded me for lacking quality." Shi's tone was rather aggrieved. "They all said that if I don't show some quality, they won't let me leave. I must produce some quality in order to get away." Wow. This is really shocking. How can this woman be so shameless, yet still dare to talk as if we bullied them? It's clearly these two who lack boundaries. 2. Xiaqing frowned slightly, only now shifting his gaze from Shi to look around them. It was also then that he noticed an unexpected figure. Xia Yunfei was standing to the side, seeming like he desperately wanted to stay away from this dispute. He stood a bit farther back from Shi, using one hand to pretend to lean against a display cabinet of the dessert shop next to them, when in actuality he was using this pose to successfully cover up half his face. The surrounding crowd was still pointing fingers at Shi and Xia Yunfei. Even when couples are dating, they need to follow basic manners. And to buy out this whole dessert shop? You can't just use lacking quality as an excuse to show off your relationship. Just bits and pieces, but enough for Xiaqing to gradually piece together what happened. Luckily he had wanted to ask which couple bullied Shi. Now there was no need to ask, since it turned out that Shi and Xia Yunfei were the low-quality couple that bullied others. Visit no.v3lb/n. cm for new OVL. What happened to the endless devotion they proclaimed? And sending him children's toys to imply they wanted to make up for the emotional trauma of his childhood. Don't tell me this is it? Sweet talking him 1 second, then going off with Xia Yunfei to eat desserts the next? Is this Shi's love? Does she still have any sincerity left? Xiaqing's voice was somewhat gnashing of teeth. Since you didn't come alone but went with Xia Yunfei to enjoy your after-work date, then you shouldn't have called me. You can go find your date Xia Yunfei to solve this. That's right, he was overthinking things. With a face that attracted bees and butterflies like Shi's, even if she met trouble, there would be no shortage of men willing to charge ahead for her. He didn't need to go so far out of his way to sacrifice his precious sleep to run over here. What's more, even if she was alone, with her abnormally high combat ability, who could be her match? Xiaqing, suppressing his emotions, was about to grimly turn and leave when Shi grabbed hold of him. That won't do, Xiaqing. She pointed to Xia Yunfei at the side. He's useless. I can only find you. What? Realized he's not up to par after one date and the reliable one is still himself? Found a low-spec substitute only to discover no one can replace the original? Xiaqing stopped in his tracks. He did want to hear how Lan Shi would argue her way out of this. If her explanation was sincere enough, he wasn't against letting it go. After all, finding an emotional rebound after heartbreak was common enough. Being able to rein herself back from the brink after realizing Xie Yunfei truly was unworthy of being a stand-in also showed she had some discernment. Xiaqing looked at Xie Yunfei, who wasn't too far away. So why is he useless? Because they said both he and I lack quality. So I thought about it and called you. Lan Shi looked at Xiaqing matter-of-factly. And they clearly knew neither he nor I had any quality, yet still forced us to show quality and be good people. Otherwise they wouldn't let us leave and even threatened to make us trend on social media. Lan Shi sounded quite aggrieved and helpless. I thought and thought about it and figured you should have some quality on you. Even if you don't have a lot, could you lend me some for an emergency? I'll pay you back later. Xiaqing held it in. For a time, he no longer had the energy to correct Lan Shi's misunderstanding about what quality was. He only looked expressionlessly at Lan Shi. Who told you I have any quality? You should have some, right? Lan Shi mumbled. And didn't you say that if anything comes up in the future you'd be willing to help? I feel like since you're rich, you should have quality. Yet Xiaqing's expression was still very ugly. Lan Shi had a bad premonition. Xiaqing, you don't have any quality either? Wasn't he full of it before? He even said as long as she kept going, his quality would disappear. Could it be gone now? Quality seemed to be something ingrained, representing the elite of humanity on Earth. It appeared to make one more easily accepted and praised by society. As a princess of the Mui star system, whether she had quality made no difference. But Xiaqing. To think someone so young already lost all quality. Perhaps because he lost all quality, Xiaqing's expression grew increasingly awful. He glanced at Lan Shi, then glanced at Xie Yunfei. I don't have any quality either, so don't look for me about things like this in the future. He coldly threw out this line without another look at Lan Shi, then turned and walked away. Now they were really done for. She had no quality, Xie Yunfei had no quality, and even the backup Xiaqing she called in had no quality. But since quality could disappear from existence, naturally it could also grow from nothingness. Now that Xiaqing was grieving over the loss of his quality to the point that he left of his own accord, she could no longer cling to him. The surrounding crowd was still denouncing Lan Shi, but she turned a deaf ear. Lan Shi made up her mind, took out her phone, and was forced to be self-reliant to provide for herself. She started to research this quality thing. Things were fine when she didn't check, but once Lan Shi did some research, she discovered this quality did not seem hard to grasp at all. After a simple search, Lan Shi discovered a way to swiftly obtain quality. Xiaqing, come back quick! There's still a way to save your vanished quality. She shouted excitedly in Xiaqing's direction. There's a secret code here called Quality 3 Combo. Just chant it along and you'll immediately gain quality. While reminding Xiaqing, Lan Shi also stumbled through the Quality 3 combo on the net, CNM. NMB. USB. Although she didn't understand what these English letters were doing here, since it was called Quality 3 combo, she'd chant it first. Chant it a couple more times and quality surely wouldn't be able to resist coming back. Sure enough, right after Lan Shi finished speaking, Xiaqing, who had categorically turned and left just earlier, seemed to have reached his limit. Grim-faced, he walked back over to Lan Shi. Stay quiet. How could she do that? I need to chant it a couple more times to bring back even more quality. Xiaqing, the focus of public attention, revealed a forlorn expression. Lan Shi, the most quality thing to do right now is stay quiet. After speaking, he grabbed Lan Shi's hand and dragged her outside. Come with me. Looks like this quality 3 combo really worked. See how Xiaqing couldn't wait to drag her away alone. Clearly wanting to secretly work on the quality issue together, growing their quality hand in hand. Until Lan Shi was dragged to the parking lot by Xiaqing, she was still lamenting. I haven't bought my 154 desserts yet. Finally, Xiaqing pieced together the whole story, and he rubbed his temples with a pained expression, saying, there were only 154 portions of desserts at the shop. You bought them all. What will the people waiting in line behind you buy? But I went through the trouble of queuing up, and they said there were no purchase limits. Lan Shi felt aggrieved. I didn't break any laws. The law is just the bottom line. Sometimes, even though there are no explicit rules against it, every industry and circle has implicit rules. For example, although there are no purchase limits, it's acceptable to buy 30 or 40 items. But if you buy up all the stock, it's a provocation to the customers waiting behind you. Do you want to get into a fight? They can't beat me altogether. Xiaqing tried to calm himself down and explain in a composed manner. Etiquette is something that should be demonstrated through your actions. Sometimes, you need to consider others, show some empathy, rather than just thinking about your own interests. For example, even though buying all the stock is not against the rules, you will be the only one enjoying the desserts. Others won't get a chance to have any. Among the people waiting behind you, there might even be tourists visiting Rongshire City for a rare occasion, and they are leaving tomorrow. If you finish everything, they won't get a chance to taste it. Once you learn to think in this comparative manner, you'll realize that what you did earlier was indeed inappropriate. Upon hearing this, Lan Shi felt there was some truth in his words. She nodded, you're right. The woman behind me just now was older than me. She might not get to taste it this time, and who knows, she might pass away in a while, never getting another chance to have it. I'm still alive, so I should give my opportunity to those who might not have much time left. That's the logic, right? I have pretty good understanding, don't I? She does have some understanding, but not much. Xiaqing had acted impulsively when he pulled Lan Shi out earlier, but now that they were in the parking lot, he had quickly regained his composure. He started to regret his actions. Lan Shi was ignorant of worldly matters, and her way of thinking was abnormal, but what did that have to do with him? She wasn't here alone. Wasn't Xia Yunfei standing beside her just fine? Why did he let his emotions get the better of him and drag her away? People learn from their mistakes. If she doesn't experience the consequences herself, how would she know what to do or say in different situations? Besides, what about the behavior interventionist I recommended to you? Didn't you attend the classes? Haven't you learned any new social norms? In response, Lan Shi expressed her grievances. I attended once, but she was very strict. She wasn't as good as you, not as patient. I didn't learn anything. Indeed, she hadn't learned anything and made no progress at all. Unfortunately, Lan Shi seemed completely indifferent to her studies. She cared about other things. Now that there are no desserts left, are you going to find another shop and buy them for me? Then will you take me home? Did I ever say that? Lan Shi stood up for herself with conviction. I just taught you the 3 qualities of being considerate, and you're not grateful? Besides, I already possess some qualities. Even though you're stingy and unwilling to lend them to me, I'm still willing to lend you some of my qualities. We can calculate the interest based on the bank's current interest rate. Xiaqing looked at Lan Shi's serious face and was momentarily at a loss for words. You may lack qualities, but you do have a good sense of humor. You should also eat fewer desserts. They can cause tooth decay and make you dull. You don't have much room left to become dull. Then, can you take me back to the employee dormitory? Xiaqing glanced at his watch and realized it was getting late. He cleared his throat and looked at the nearby street lamp. Considering that it's on the way to drop you off at the employee dormitory, I'll reluctantly give you a ride today. That's great! But wait a moment, Lanshi said, taking out her phone. Let me call Xia Yunfei. He said he was driven here today and didn't bring his car. His destination and the employee dormitory are in the same direction, so it's convenient for him too. It would be quite a hassle to call the driver at this late hour. You just mentioned that people should learn to consider others, so I'll ask Xia Yunfei to come along and share your car. See, I'm being considerate, right? It was indeed considerate. The driver would have a difficult time coming over so late, so she decided to become the driver herself. Not only would she be giving Lanshi a ride, but also Xia Yunfei. You are considerate, but perhaps a bit too considerate. Xiaqing felt like he was being driven to his wits' end. He coldly looked at Lanshi. I suddenly remembered that our destinations are not on the same route. Since you came here to meet Xia Yunfei, naturally, both of you should go back together. If I were to come along, it would only disrupt your date. I'm being inconsiderate. After finishing his words, Xiaqing didn't give Lanshi a chance to respond. He got into the car on his own and left in annoyance. Men can change their minds so easily. He just said we were on the way, but suddenly we're not. However, she needed to conquer Xia Yunfei now. Spending more time with him would allow her to find the right opportunity to showcase her strengths. They could sleep together and make him completely devoted to her, leading to marriage, property transfers, and reaching the pinnacle of life. Just as Lanshi was about to turn around and look for Xia Yunfei, a taxi pulled up in front of her. Ma'am, are you going back to Qingxin Technology's employee dormitory? The taxi driver, an older woman, rolled down the window and asked Lanshi. Someone has booked this ride for you. Please get in. It must be Xia Yunfei who arranged the ride for her. Xiaqing abandoned her and Xia Yunfei came to the rescue. Lanshi got into the taxi, cursing Xiaqing in her heart. Of course, Xiaqing had no obligation to take her back to the employee dormitory, but Lanshi couldn't help feeling unhappy. How could he just walk away like that? Leaving her behind, defenseless. Ugh! Leaving behind someone as strong, towering, and powerful as herself. Was he not afraid that she would threaten social stability? Lanshi returned to the employee dormitory with a sense of resentment. She opened her phone and discovered several missed calls and messages from Xia Yunfei, all asking if she had safely returned. According to the guide, when an Earth male actively inquires about you, it indicates that he has a certain interest in you. At such times, you should take the initiative and respond. You can give him a call, express your gratitude in a sweet manner, and extend an invitation for the next meeting. In the past, when Lanshi was conquering Xiaqing, she was always full of energy and enthusiasm. However, as expected, doing the same thing for the second time would lose its novelty. There's some truth to this, or else Lanshi wouldn't feel so unmotivated at this moment. After some thought, Lanshi decided not to bother with a phone call and instead send a text message expressing her gratitude. On the other hand, Xia Yunfei was quite enthusiastic and proactive. After receiving the text message, he immediately called Lanshi. There's a movie premiere tomorrow, and the main actors will be there. I happen to have 2 tickets, he coughed, his voice sounding unnatural. Today, there was a small accident while having dessert. Tomorrow, I'll buy some as compensation and take you to see the movie. Consider it an apology. Will you not be angry anymore? The author, EARTHLINGS, reminds you that the most comprehensive guide to conquering Earthmen can be found at domain name. He had previously dated many celebrities and internet celebrities, so he was no stranger to being watched and photographed during outings. But tonight was indeed out of the ordinary. This woman was beautiful, but she was also too domineering and arrogant. She even threatened to buy out the dessert shop, which led to him being scolded as well. Xia Yunfei wished he could just disappear into a hole. And now, he had just finished handling the public opinion and bought out all the videos that were taken. He had dealt with arrogant women before and knew that some women would deliberately find faults and throw tantrums to test the depth of affection and tolerance. However, Lan Shi had gone too far. But according to the information from his own father, Xia Jing, Lan Shi was originally involved in a heated relationship with Xia Qing. It was Xia Jing who had sent him to interfere. However, Xia Yunfei had been taking action for a while, and there was no sign of Xia Qing's response. He had initially been very skeptical of this information, but after what happened tonight, it turned out to be true. Xia Qing was truly infatuated with Lan Shi. Despite the embarrassing situation earlier, Xia Yunfei wished he could hide and pretend not to know Lan Shi, but this man still came running to take her away, ignoring the voices of the outside world. How come I never noticed that Xia Qing has such a good temper? Xia Yunfei couldn't help but mutter, women also have certain rules, right? Lan Shi is acting too crazy and wild. I can't tolerate it, but somehow Xia Qing can. Not only could he tolerate it, from the way he looked just now, he even seemed to enjoy it. Xia Yunfei couldn't help but recall Lan Shi's shocking statement of "lend me some decency." He still couldn't calm down from it. He knew that some women liked to act dumb and innocent, but he had never encountered someone like Lan Shi who pretended to be crazy and stupid. But that's how it was. Xia Qing didn't show any signs of shock on his face, not even a hint of surprise. He remained calm and composed, as if it was something he was accustomed to. Xia Yunfei couldn't help but admire him for it. Indeed, he had the kind of presence that could withstand the collapse of Mount Tai without changing his expression. Considering that Xia Qing had never been in a relationship before, did that mean he liked these eccentric and dramatic women? It seemed that his absence before wasn't because he didn't care, but rather he didn't care enough. Now that Xia Qing had successfully managed to invite Lan Shi out alone, Xia Yunfei felt a sense of crisis. At this moment, Xia Yunfei was filled with an intense fighting spirit. Since childhood, Xia Qing had always been like the golden child of the family, while Xia Yunfei's own father would often sigh and feel that he couldn't compare to Xia Qing. Although Xia Yunfei had initially approached the situation with a playful attitude, he was now fully determined. If Xia Qing was interested in a woman, Xia Yunfei was determined to do whatever it took to win her over. Who could outdo Xia Qing in anything, including picking up girls? With Xia Qing's cold and aloof demeanor, did he really expect women to fall for that? Xia Yunfei, on the other hand, would focus on providing caring and gentle differentiated service. He would take the route of companionship, which was the most sincere form of confession. Lan Shi was different from the other girls he had encountered before. She didn't seem particularly interested in material things or money, and her personality was unpredictable. Her reactions were completely different from what one would expect from an ordinary person, making it difficult to anticipate. Xia Yunfei spent the whole night without sleep, meticulously devising a targeted plan. Lan Shi was also sleepless for almost the entire night. She was supposed to come up with a plan to conquer Xia Yunfei, but the more she flipped through the guide to find new inspirations, the more she recalled the tactics she had used against Xia Qing using the strategies from the guide. Consequently, thoughts about tonight became increasingly uncontrollable. Do you want to read Chapter 40 of the Earthlings Conquest Guide written by EARTHLINGS? Please remember the domain name of this site. In fact, not just tonight, but for the past few days, Lan Shi had been so frustrated by Xia Qing that she couldn't sleep well. Even her usually proud physical strength couldn't withstand such exhaustion, leading her to announce a strike the next day. She nearly forced herself to complete a day's work while feeling drowsy. By the time it was time to meet Xia Yunfei after work, she was already yawning non-stop. Xia Yunfei was also yawning non-stop. He called a driver and intentionally chose a flashy car, parking it in front of Qingxin's door before the end of the workday. He himself stood in front of the car in a smart suit, waiting for Shi to appear. As soon as she did, he gentlemanly opened the car door for her and elegantly guided her inside. But just performing all these gestures seemed to drain Xia Yunfei of his energy. Although he tried his best to maintain a cheerful and gentle conversation with Shi in the car, the movie theater they were heading to required passing through a main road, and they got caught in the rush hour traffic. Even the best luxury car couldn't pick up speed in such conditions, so they could only move slowly, stopping and starting again. The rays of the setting sun shone into the car, relieving the daytime heat and becoming warm and gentle. Finally, unable to resist his instincts, Xia Yunfei unconsciously closed his eyes and fell asleep in this warm swaying motion. She noticed this situation almost instantly. Her heart was suddenly filled with mixed emotions. See what it means to be in the right path. This is it. It was incredibly difficult for Shi to have a chance to sleep with Xia Qing initially. However, Xia Yunfei, on the other hand, accepted her without any reservation and fell asleep in the car, clearly not minding the idea of them sleeping together in the car. The progress of conquering Xia Yunfei has now accelerated exponentially. They were able to sleep together so quickly. But there's absolutely no benefit to sleeping with someone. If you sleep with someone and they pay you afterward, it's illegal. In modern society, there are countless people who sleep around without taking responsibility. Some men even have diseases, and if you sleep with them, you might get infected, and some diseases can be very troublesome to treat. Shi, who was feeling drowsy, suddenly jolted awake as the word Xia Qing once scolded her with, warning her not to keep thinking about sleeping with people, replayed in her mind. She looked at Xia Yunfei, who was peacefully sleeping beside her, and pinched her own thigh. She couldn't sleep. What if this Xia Yunfei is sick? Moreover, if she slept with him and he didn't take responsibility or acknowledge their conquered relationship, wouldn't it be a waste? Although she advised herself to act cautiously and not sleep together until she had thoroughly assessed Xia Yunfei's character, the consecutive nights of staying up late had taken a toll on her. In the constant swaying of the traffic, Shi eventually succumbed to drowsiness and unknowingly fell asleep. When Shi woke up again, they had already arrived at the entrance of the Point Screening Cinema. Realizing that she had actually fallen asleep and slept with Xia Yunfei, Shi felt regretful and anxious, worrying about what would happen if she had contracted an infectious disease. Fortunately, Xia Yunfei, who had also awakened, seemed refreshed, and Shi herself didn't experience any discomfort. The bustling crowd at the screening quickly caught Shi's attention. The tickets for this exclusive screening are in high demand. It's not something anyone can get into, Xia Yunfei explained to Shi with a hint of pride, pointing at the enthusiastic fans. This movie, Mate Selection Guide, is highly anticipated in the market. Both the male and female leads are top-tier actors, and the male actor, Shang Zhe, is a global sensation. Look, there are even many foreigners among the fans. Although there was security service available, the crazed fans were shouting Shang Zhe and the entrance became chaotic, like an entrance to a one-way trip to a fairyland. This was the desired effect. Xia Yunfei stood by Shi's side, assuming a protective posture to prevent the crowd from bumping into her. This was the perfect time to show off. Xia Yunfei gently embraced Shi's waist, creating a space around her and displayed the most affectionate and handsome expression. Don't worry, I'm here. Just being cool requires striking a pose, but once you strike those poses, your footing becomes unstable. Xie Yunfei didn't expect that right after delivering his heartwarming lines, a crazy and muscular female fan would push her way towards him, and despite the efforts of the security, she was about to charge towards Lan Shi. "Excuse me, please make way." Just when Xie Yunfei was almost resigned to salvaging the situation, a cold voice sounded beside him. Then, a pair of long legs appeared in his line of sight, followed by a strong arm that pushed away the fan who had broken through the crowd, pulling Lan Shi towards a safer place. After doing all this, Xie Qing casually remarked, "You were in my way," and walked forward without even glancing back. Although his steps were steady, his movements were so quick, as if deliberately avoiding something, that by the time Lan Shi turned around, he had already gone far away. But Lan Shi didn't notice, and that didn't mean Xie Yunfei wasn't paying attention. He discreetly inquired and only then discovered that Xie Qing was a sponsor of the advertisement for the new season of the Spouse Selection Guide, which was why he was invited to the preview event and appeared here. Once they entered the venue and took their seats, Xie Yunfei was even more displeased to find that Xie Cheng's seat was right in front of him and Lan Shi. He had a perfect view of Xie Cheng's arrogant and cold back of the head. Fortunately, Lan Shi didn't care about the earlier incident at all. She had never attended a preview event before and found everything fascinating. She didn't even notice that Xie Qing had also come to her aid just now. Instead, she excitedly turned her head and started chatting with Xie Yunfei, completely oblivious to the superior back of the head in front of her. Having wasted too much time on Xie Qing in the early stages, Xie Yunfei knew he couldn't afford to be slow in conquering Lan Shi now. He had to speed things up. Lan Shi decided to seize every opportunity to praise Xie Yunfei, as it was well known that Earthmen were easily swayed by compliments and adoration from the opposite sex. Without further ado, Lan Shi cast a flirtatious glance at Xie Yunfei. She rummaged through her reserve knowledge from how to conquer a handsome young man and the Earthling's Guide to Conquest in her mind, and sweetly said, "President Yun, your shoulders are so broad. This suit fits you so well, making you look so upright, like a walking clothes hanger. I bet it makes you look slim when you wear it and muscular when you take it off. Oh my, let me take a closer look. President Yun, why are your pores so big? It must be because you're rich and powerful, so even your pores are enlarged. Ah. The hair on your legs is as thick as a monkey's. It clearly shows the traces of human evolution and the close relationship with monkeys. You're like a moving museum of human evolution, profound and vast." However, it seemed that Lan Shi's frequent praise, which had started off well with the first compliment, ended up being unappreciated. The more she persisted and continued to praise, the more embarrassed and unpleasant Xie Yunfei's expression became. Fortunately, just as Lan Shi was running out of words and couldn't come up with any new compliments, the preview event finally began. With the attendance of A-list actors and actresses, the atmosphere at the scene was lively and full of anticipation. The film, titled The Guide to Choosing a Partner, was a major production with abundant promotional budget. The host added a fun audience interaction element to the event. Now, let's ask our audience friends here, what are your criteria for choosing a partner? Please take a moment to scan the event's mini-program, add our movies tag, and upload your partner preferences. For each successful upload, you can scan the QR code to receive a cash red envelope, starting from a minimum of 200 yuan. Everyone who participates is guaranteed to win. And here's a little secret, the more detailed and extensive your partner preferences are, the more generous the cash reward calculated by the system will be. The event will only last for 10 minutes. Let's begin. Cash red envelopes? Starting from a minimum of 200 yuan? The more details, the higher the reward? This promotional activity is really impressive. As soon as the rules were announced, Lan Shi pulled out her phone and opened the event's mini-program. However, her phone had been acting up lately, frequently freezing. And now, during this crucial money-making moment, it was freezing again, and the keyboard page wouldn't appear. But the event only lasted for 10 minutes, and everyone who participated would win something. Missing out on this opportunity felt like missing out on a fortune. Upto.dfrm no/v/e/lb n.co/m. Just last month, Lan Shi had repaid Wang Jiqiang's money, but with the interest added, it nearly depleted her savings. Her next paycheck was still a while away, and even though conquering Xie Yunfei had gone smoothly, it would take time to transfer the property and sell it after they got married. Lan Shi had been worrying about how to get some cash, but she hadn't expected this money-making opportunity to come knocking at her door. Princesses, the most important quality is to stay calm and adapt in times of crisis. So what if the keyboard wasn't working? There's voice input, right? Lan Shi greeted Xie Yunfei and quickly walked out of the venue. As long as she found an empty space, she could use voice input, and that would be it. The money from these red envelopes was as good as hers. Lan Shi sneaked out to the area outside the venue. She intended to find an empty spot, but because the movie had A-list actors, even with tight security, there were still ticket scalpers and infiltrating fans around. The corridors had security personnel, and there were fans who managed to slip into the bathroom. In short, when Lan Shi looked around, she couldn't find a single place without people to do her voice input. But time waits for no one. One shouldn't pass up the opportunity to make money. Lan Shi quickly circled around the venue and finally found a place with no one around. However, this place was a bit peculiar. It looked like a storage room with several operating machinery and equipment. But Lan Shi didn't care about that. The 10 minutes would pass by quickly, so she quickly took out her phone and started voice recognition. However, because the machines in the room were making noise, Lan Shi had to raise her voice and almost shout for the voice recognition to work. The host said that the more detailed the partner preferences, the more money one would receive. Besides, this submission was anonymous. Finally, she had caught this opportunity to make money, and Lan Shi couldn't let it slip away. Since arriving on Earth, she had read many books written by Earthlings, such as What Kind of Man is Suitable for Marriage, Rough Words, Reasonable Thoughts, teaching you how to identify a good man, and how to use marriage to achieve class ascendancy. Following the selection criteria outlined in these books, there was absolutely no flaw to be seen. It appeared natural and professional at the same time. As she watched the speech smoothly converted into text, she felt a sense of satisfaction. With so many words, she could at least earn a 4-figure sum. Xiaqing felt that his luck had been poor lately. He attended the premiere as a sponsor of the advertisement, hoping to generate some news for the upcoming weather app launch. It was just an event where he needed to show up, take a few photos, and leave. However, he unexpectedly ran into Xie Yunfei and Lan Shi, and their seats were right behind him. Throughout the event, Lan Shi and Xie Yunfei were engrossed in lively conversation, appearing in high spirits. Xiaqing's mood turned sour. Xie Yunfei had been so busy showing off his charm earlier that he hadn't even noticed that Lan Shi was about to be pushed over. Not only did she not thank him, but she didn't even give him a single glance. Now, sitting in front of her with such a prominent back of his head, she still failed to recognize him and continued to flirt with Xie Yunfei behind his back. Xiaqing deeply regretted it. One should never engage in charity too easily because it could end up infuriating oneself. The MC on stage had already moved on to the interactive session with the audience. Having fulfilled his attendance duty, Xiaqing glanced at his watch. It was time to leave. However, just as he was about to get up, a familiar voice came through the venue's loudspeakers. According to my criteria for choosing a spouse, a man should possess virtue. He should not spend time alone with the opposite sex, should not be frequently seen in public, should not defy me, should maintain his chastity, and consider his wife as heaven and purity as his life. He shouldn't dress too provocatively, but his physique should be well maintained, with at least a six-pack. He should be virtuous and gentle in public, yet full of charm in private. It's even better if he's an only child, with no parents alive, so as to avoid conflicts with in-laws and simplify family relationships. Additionally, he should meet the 180 standards: height not less than 180 centimeters, a house not smaller than 180 square meters, and a length not shorter than 180 centimeters. Xia Qing was dumbfounded. It was undoubtedly Lan Shi's voice. Where had she gone off to? How could she shamelessly say these things in public? And using the loudspeakers. It was as if she wanted everyone to know. Moreover, even though the person speaking was Lan Shi, she had no connection to him now, and she wasn't even brought here by him. However, Xia Qing couldn't help feeling nervous. After all, Lan Shi's criteria for choosing a spouse were tailored to fit him perfectly. He could identify with every single one. After all, how many outstanding men in this world were only children with deceased parents? Xia Qing couldn't believe it. Despite their recent progress and the heated exchanges between them, she had publicly teased him by aligning his standards for choosing a partner with hers. She had pretended not to notice him just moments ago. Xia Qing realized he had underestimated her. While she might struggle with social interactions in other areas, she was clearly adept at handling romantic relationships. And now she had even come up with the audacity to confess her feelings in front of everyone. Xia Qing was astonished, but the whispers from the surrounding audience were even more shocking. It was at this moment that the host finally got an answer from the staff in a fluster. The microphone was left on by the head of security when he was directing the work backstage. Such a blunder occurring during a perfectly normal premiere left the staff very anxious. The group was just about to rush backstage when, without even waiting for them to enter, Lan Shi strode confidently out from behind the backstage curtains and onto the stage. Lan Shi was somewhat surprised to find herself suddenly appearing on the stage. Just now she had heard some noise coming from this direction and thought it was a shortcut back into the venue hall, so she came over to try it out, not expecting that she would walk directly onto the stage. The host was looking at her with an awkward and bewildered expression on his face, and the audience below was also staring at her. So this really is a shortcut. Lan Shi gave the host a friendly smile. It's very close indeed. She waved genially at the host. Well, I'll get going now, please carry on. Having said that, she casually walked off the stage and returned to her seat. Yet, she didn't know why, but the entire audience was quietly watching her. Even Xie Yunfei was looking at her uncomfortably. In short, the atmosphere was strange. Lan Shi couldn't help but ask, did something happen just now? Xie Yunfei forced a laugh. Well, someone just shared their rather eccentric views on choosing a spouse. Oh. Lan Shi was indifferent. My views on choosing a spouse are quite ordinary. The guide had said that at critical moments, you must show that you are different from other women, thereby highlighting your own strengths. As an intelligent princess, Lan Shi naturally seized the opportunity to put what she learned into practice. She glanced gently at Xie Yunfei and coquettishly said, in this world, there really are many women with eccentric, overbearing views on choosing a spouse, but I'm not one of them. I'm very ordinary and traditional in this regard, rule-abiding and conventional. You can rest assured. Xie Yunfei's expression was hard to describe. He seemed to try reminding her again, have you noticed that many people are looking at you? Do you know why? Lan Shi confidently smiled, I know. You know? Then, you don't care at all? Lan Shi lowered her voice, they're looking at me probably because I'm so good looking. I'm often looked at like this. Don't worry, I don't mind. I'm used to it. Being beautiful is a kind of scenery in itself. Letting others appreciate it isn't a big deal. People shouldn't be petty. Lan Shi's radiance was clearly received by Xia Yunfei. He was stunned for a moment, seemingly unable to fully absorb it all at once. He awkwardly got up. "I'll go have a smoke in the garden." Xia Yunfei's movements were swift this time. By the time Lan Shi reacted, the seat next to her was already empty. Yet Lan Shi waited for a while and Xia Yunfei was gone for quite some time just for a smoke. He still hadn't returned. The guide mentioned that when necessary, showing concern for the other person's health demonstrates thoughtfulness and tenderness, which can make men from Earth fall rapidly. Lan Shi thought about it and headed for the garden as well. On the other side, in the garden, Xia Yunfei was holding a cigarette but didn't have a chance to smoke it at all. "Xia Yunfei, explain clearly to me. We haven't broken up and yet you brazenly brought another woman to the premiere of my friend's film? If she hadn't told me, I would still be kept in the dark." Find new stories on nov/elbin.com. I rushed over today to catch you red-handed. Where is that cheap, little vixen mistress? Is it that model Mia who was making eyes at you during the last gathering? Today, I'm going to fix her good. Xia Yunfei felt recently that his luck had been rather bad. Not to mention Lan Shi's eccentric personality and accident-prone constitution. Even when he came out here for some fresh air and to sneak a smoke to avoid the various looks in the hall, he still managed to run into his ex-girlfriend Lisa. There were already many reporters present for today's premiere event, and outside there were all kinds of fans equipped with telephoto lens and phones lying in wait. Xia Yunfei didn't want there to be a scandal here. So he spoke gently, hoping to gloss things over for the time being. "Lisa, you've misunderstood." But before he could finish, a loud voice suddenly interrupted him from behind. "Xia Yunfei, stop smoking. Smoking kills sperm and affects sperm quality. It's not good for breeding future generations with me in the future." Lisa's previously softened gaze instantly sharpened once more. "Still trying to lie to me? The mistress is right at your door. And already thinking about breeding future generations with you." Xia Yunfei felt utterly helpless. Lisa was great in many ways, but her temper was particularly spoiled and hysterical. As for Lan Shi, he didn't know what was going on with her. Wasn't this asking for trouble? Lisa's emotional state was already beginning to spiral out of control. She undid the diamond necklace around her neck. "You originally gave me this diamond and said your feelings for me were as hard as this diamond. But now..." She started crying. "How far have you developed with her? Did you sleep with her?" Xia Yunfei tried to calm the raging storm and explain that nothing had happened between him and Lan Shi. But before he could say anything, Lan Shi exclaimed loudly in pleasant surprise. "How did you know we slept together?" Lan Shi was indeed very pleasantly surprised. So it could be seen. It turns out that the atmosphere between her and Xia Yunfei had already reached such a degree. Although Xia Qing said some men remain unchanged even after sleeping together, that it was pointless, but her time sleeping with Xia Yunfei was clearly not pointless. It was very effective. Even Lisa could see that things were different between them. "We just slept together recently." Lan Shi smiled at Lisa. "As for what you said about his feelings for you being as hard as a diamond, doesn't that just mean such feelings are extremely fragile?" Lan Shi took the diamond necklace from Lisa's hand and gently squeezed it in her palm. The diamonds instantly turned to powder. Lisa stared with mouth agape. "You, my diamonds." Lan Shi patted Lisa's shoulder sympathetically and kindly showed Lisa, "You see, he used such a fragile thing to represent his feelings for you. You'd better just let go." With eyes red around the rims, Lisa looked at the remaining wreckage of the diamond necklace. Finally, she lost control of her emotions. "Xia Yunfei, just you wait." Having said that, she hurriedly slipped away outside, almost tripping in her heels. Xia Yunfei was conflicted about whether to follow, but eventually still chased after her. As Xia Yunfei left her behind, She didn't feel imbalanced at all. She watched his gradually disappearing figure and was even in quite a good mood. But after a moment, she suddenly realized something and regretted belatedly. She had hitched a ride here with Xia Yunfei. But now Xia Yunfei had run off. Wouldn't She have to pay out of her own pocket for a taxi back? More money to spend. She should have followed him out. At least gotten a free ride. She angrily kicked a pebble which, propelled by excessive force, flew into an adjacent wall and went right through it. The previously intact wall now had a small hole. Why didn't you unleash that power earlier? As She gloomily prepared to take a taxi, a familiar voice sounded from behind. Was it Xia Cheng? She turned and indeed saw Xia Cheng's face. He was dressed very formally in a dark lead-colored suit. For some reason, his expression was especially cold. His tall, crisp figure exuded an air of oppressiveness and loftiness. He was currently looking coldly at Shi. Xia Cheng. You're here too. Shi displayed an almost overjoyed expression as if greeting an old friend from hometown. Xia Cheng, great. Are you leaving? Can I hitch a ride with you? Unfortunately, Xia Cheng did not directly answer Shi's question. Instead, he stared at her strangely. No need to pretend you didn't see me. Huh? Shi was a little confused, but there was no need to care about these details. She only cared about one question: can I go with you? Unfortunately, Xia Cheng just pursed his lips and said nothing, his face displeased. After a while, he spoke again, asking a completely unrelated question. Did you sleep with Xia Yunfei? I did. Shi thought for a moment. After all, Xia Cheng had once patiently taught her about the issue of sleep. Now she should also share some of her advanced experience to give back to him. So she enthusiastically and friendly said, actually Xia Yunfei's body is still healthy. After sleeping with him, I didn't feel uncomfortable or get infected with any diseases. Sleeping makes me feel pretty good and very comfortable. I feel full of energy after sleeping, as if I was fully charged. How could it not be? If she hadn't caught up on that nap with Xia Yunfei in the car, she would probably still be sleepy and lacking in energy now. As a result, despite her heartfelt sharing, not only was Xia Cheng unappreciative, but he also looked on the verge of anger. He glared at Shi, almost gritting his teeth. You still feel charged? Haven't you gotten over that addiction yet? Didn't I tell you long ago to enrich your life by doing more other things and finding some healthy hobbies? Sleep is very healthy and nourishing. How could it not be? Is it something worth being so shocked about? Is it something worth Xia Cheng showing a murderous look on his face? She really wanted to explain, but she could feel that Xia Cheng was probably in a bad mood today. He looked like he was about to explode with anger. The guide said, less is more when someone is angry. When an earthling is angry, it's best to stay quiet and only answer whatever they ask, to avoid conflict. She bit her lip and remained quiet and well-behaved. However, Xia Cheng seemed to be in an extremely bad mood, because his face looked even uglier. She saw him fiddle with his tie in slight irritation. When did you sleep with him? When did you sleep with him? She suddenly understood and answered his questions accordingly. Just now. Just now? Yeah, just now in the car. In the car? Xia Cheng's calm appearance from before completely shattered. Contrary to his usual unperturbed manner, his voice rose several notes, full of disbelief and incredulity. You took the opportunity of the drive over just now and couldn't wait to sleep with him in the car? What's wrong with that? She didn't understand. When you want to sleep, you sleep. The atmosphere was right, the feeling hit, so we just slept. That's something completely natural that would happen. With the bumpy sensation at that time and the drowsy feeling from the warm sunset shining in, didn't it make people feel sleepy? Was it something worth being so shocked about? Was it something worth Xiaqing showing a murderous look? He just slept with you, but now he has ditched you to run out to find his ex-girlfriend. How can you tolerate this? Don't you feel pathetic and heartbroken? Lan Shi carefully sensed her emotions. She didn't feel pathetic or heartbroken at all. On the contrary, she even felt invigorated from her nap and happy about receiving the red envelope. Xiaqing looked coldly at Lan Shi, his face ugly. For a man like Xia Yunfei, I think you'd better pray that you're free to follow him at any time, as that may be the only way to tie him down. But that still doesn't rule out the possibility that he is shameless. If you can tolerate what just happened, who knows if in the future he will engage in threesomes. Threesomes? Lan Shi's eyes lit up. I can do threesomes. There was an earth saying that went, when three people work together, one will always be my teacher. Lan Shi actively applied what she learned. She was confident that her response demonstrated her authentic Earthling identity. I can also take this opportunity to learn some real skills and find a teacher among them. Her answer was extremely positive, loving learning. But for some reason, Xiaqing's face turned as black as an octopus ready to attack, like he was filled to the brim with ink. You'd even look for a teacher and ask for skills advice regarding something like this? Lan Shi, do you have no shame? What does this have to do with shame? Lan Shi couldn't help muttering, back then I also wanted to sleep with you, but you didn't want to. Now you're jealous of us, but you can also find someone to sleep with. One person's not enough, get two. I'm not as promiscuous as you guys. However, Xiaqing didn't seem comforted by Lan Shi's words at all. On the contrary, his face became even darker. Able to sleep in the car. Able to casually find someone and casually find a place to sleep. Also not opposed to threesomes. What's wrong with that? I can sleep in many places. What Lan Shi said was true. Her Mui people were not as delicate as Earthlings, fussing about having to sleep in bed. Occasionally when they were on military campaigns, sleeping rough was very common. As a result, Lan Shi had long cultivated the skill to adapt to her environment. Even just leaning against a wall, she could fall straight asleep. She helpfully added, but it's normal that you don't have the skill. After all, I practiced this for several years and have abundant experience. Don't look at how skilled I am now, that's just because practice makes perfect. I also started out as a complete beginner like you, with terrible skills. As it turns out, it would have been better not to say this. As soon as she finished speaking, Xiaqing's face revealed that he could no longer endure this. His gaze also turned somewhat gritted teeth. A beginner with terrible skills? Forget it, no need to talk about this anymore. It was obvious Xiaqing's sleep skills were awful. Wasn't she just poking at his sore spot? Better get back on topic. Lan Shi cleared her throat and revealed a friendly smile. Never mind, there's no time to lose. Are you in a hurry? Let's get going quickly then. I'm in a hurry, so I'm leaving, Xiaqing said coldly, giving Lan Shi a cold glance. His face looked darker than the night. But you stay here. After all, I don't provide opportunities to sleep with you in the car, given that I'm such a beginner with terrible skills. Question mark. After saying that, Xiaqing actually turned and left without even looking back. As Lan Shi watched his receding figure, she was utterly confused. This man must resent that her sleep skills are better than his. However, luck was good and there was no way around it. Not long after Lan Shi walked to the entrance of the venue, she saw a car parked at the door. Excuse me, are you Ms. Lan Shi? Someone booked a car for you. The destination is the staff dormitory of Chengxin Technology, right? Just like last time, the taxi driver was a seemingly reliable woman. To go back from here, the fare wouldn't be cheap. Don't worry, the gentleman who booked the car for you will pay all the expenses. Lan Shi was happy to hear that. But who booked it? How thoughtful. When Lan Shi asked, the female driver glanced at the order information. It was a Mr. Xia who booked it. It must be Xia Yunfei. After all, it was him who booked a car to send her back to the staff dormitory last time. Lan Shi felt relieved and got into the car, marveling to herself again that she had bet right. Look, despite having just slept with Xia Yunfei, he was already so thoughtful of her. To be honest, Lan Shi didn't feel uncomfortable at all that Xia Yunfei had ditched her to chase Lisa. In fact, she felt it was quite nice to be riding alone now, happier than being with Xia Yunfei. The only person who really annoyed her was Xia Qing. Remembering how Xia Qing didn't let her hitch a ride and made her walk alone, Lan Shi felt stifled. This ungrateful earthling, he should know that such a noble princess like herself had taken a fancy to him. Not only did he not cherish it, but he was also coldly indifferent. Although she only needed to conquer Xia Yunfei now, Lan Shi realized that she was still upset about her previous failure to conquer Xia Qing. Damn Earth men, actually scorning her conquest. When she conquered the Earth, she would first capture Xia Qing and teach him a lesson instead of hastily stabilizing her rule. Send him to a men's virtue class and strengthen his learning on how to please others. Xia Qing was completely unaware that Lan Shi had already made unilateral arrangements for him to attend men's virtue training classes in her mind. He was just extremely angry and irritable. If Xia Qing was given another chance, he would never have chosen to leave the scene through that shortcut path in the small garden. He didn't mean to eavesdrop on that gossip either, which should have been aired on a silly romantic drama. However, Lan Shi's voice was too loud, and the garden corridor was just too long. But the most outrageous thing was that Lan Shi had just casually slept with Xia Yunfei, in a car too. Okay, let's connect with an listener friend to hear about his emotional troubles and then give advice. The person who came to pick up Xia Qing was Chowan. He had a radio program on in his car that had recently become popular. Host, I have encountered something that has been bothering me a lot. A man, the anonymous confider on the radio station, was soon connected. Apparently the anonymity made him feel safe enough to bare his heart. There was this girl who kept implying in various ways that she was pursuing me, being very bold and straightforward, and kept saying she wanted to marry me and have children with me, that she was willing to dedicate herself to me, but I felt we weren't suitable so I rejected her. The host was quite persuasive. You did the right thing. A clear rejection is better than an ambiguous entanglement, which can allow the girl to move on and find her next relationship faster. Well, but the problem is, after I rejected her, unexpectedly she got together with someone else very quickly, and it wasn't even a budding new romance, she directly slept with him. But since you weren't interested in that girl and she didn't continue to pester you afterwards, just let her take responsibility for her own life, right? Who said she didn't pester me? She still appears in front of me wandering around every day, looking for attention. Whenever she needs help with something, she calls me. And after being rejected by me, she even publicly confessed to me again. Yet while aggressively confessing her love for me, she also slept with another man. The male listener on the radio was getting more and more angry. The problem is that the man basically doesn't cherish her at all. He's just a player maintaining improper relationships with several women at the same time. None of the women involved with him have good outcomes. I don't know why she would do this to herself when she's so pretty, has a good figure, is smart, and has many outstanding qualities overall, yet the man she found is sleazy, lecherous, useless and up.dfrm no/v/e/lb i n.co/m. Chowan felt a little embarrassed. Boss, yeah, am I disturbing you? Let me turn off the radio. This was a very hot emotional confession radio show. Chowan would listen to it when driving alone out of boredom, because the listeners' confessions were always so silly and dramatic, it could keep him awake and alert while driving. Now that Xiaqing was in his car, however, and he was someone who liked quiet, Chowan decided to turn off the radio. But just as he was about to do so, he heard Xiaqing's faint voice behind him. It's fine, don't turn it off. Xiaqing glanced out the window. You can listen if you want. Chowan sincerely explained, No, I don't want to listen that much. I know you want to listen. Leave it on, said Xiaqing calmly. Driving can be tiring, so in order for you to stay alert, I don't mind you listening as long as it respects your hobbies. I don't actually have this hobby. Xiaqing coughed again and ordered, I can see that you're interested in this radio station, so go ahead and listen. All right. Luckily, the confessional content on the radio soon attracted Chowan's attention again. The male listener was still angrily and aggrievedly confessing, when she was pursuing me at first, I stuck to my principles and held my ground even though I knew I could have slept with her without having to take any responsibility. From the standpoint of respecting women and protecting her, I controlled myself. Yet she kept saying she loved me, but then turned around and casually found another man. The man on the radio was still complaining. Chowan couldn't help but murmur, this must be scripted. It's too silly. Are there really girls like this? And listening to what this guy is implying between the lines, isn't it obvious he just can't let go? Chowan was just muttering to himself and didn't expect a reply. However, Xiaqing actually spoke up. It's not necessarily scripted, there are all kinds of weirdos in real life, this kind of thing probably happens frequently. If it's true, the girl is pretty weird, and so is the guy. How is the guy weird? However, Xiaqing clearly disagreed with Chowan's offhand remark. He cleared his throat and said indifferently, isn't this guy simply just a victim? The girl was ardently saying she loved him one moment then swiftly found someone else the next. Isn't that just leading his feelings on? How is that leading his feelings on? Chowan explained, it was this guy who rejected her first. She was heartbroken in despair, and going to find someone for a hookup or to sleep with under the huge impact of the heartbreak is understandable. It's a kind of self-healing, similar to how her self-confidence was hit after being rejected, so she uses finding another man to make up for it. On the contrary, this man is more despicable, full of contradictions, and creepy. If he rejected someone else, how can he control how that person treats their own body and feelings afterwards? Even if the other person confessed their love for him while sleeping with another man at the same time, it doesn't hinder his life, so what is there for him to be upset about? He wants to have his cake and eat it too. Listen to what he's implying between the lines, he also wants to sleep with her but doesn't want to establish a relationship and take responsibility. He's afraid he won't be able to shake her off after sleeping with her. But unexpectedly, after he rejected her, she went off to fool around with another man, and he got so angry, listen to that tone, he's almost twisted out of shape. He's simply extremely despicable, very much like a green TB ***ch, hypocritically fishing for compliments and fame, just not being straightforward. Why can't he be more open? How can he be so shady and sleazy? It really makes people angrily want to give him 2 punches when hearing this. Xiaqing. After starting a relationship with his girlfriend Liang Di, Chowan has been taught a lot of relationship values and internet slang by her. Getting a bit carried away with his commentary, when he glanced at the rearview mirror, he realized Xiaqing's expression had also nearly twisted out of shape. Xiaqing liked quiet. It seemed Chowan's chattiness had annoyed him. Chowan shut his mouth and listened wholeheartedly to the host on the radio's long-winded explanation. Sure enough, the female host's viewpoint was almost the same as Chow-An's, and she started criticizing the male listener who had called in. However, just as Chow-An was listening with great interest, Xia Cheng's cold voice came from behind. "Change the channel." Chow-An was a little surprised. "The analysis is quite sharp. I found it pretty interesting listening to it, so I wanted to keep listening to the follow-up." "No, you don't." Just by listening to Xia Cheng's voice, it was clear he must have had a straight face at that moment. His voice was as decisive as a knife. "I can see that you're not actually interested. Change the channel." Although Chow-An changed the channel very quickly, Xia Cheng was still full of dissatisfaction and resentment in his heart. "How can you say men are cheap? And what does this man just wants to sleep with her irresponsibly mean? What's wrong with public opinion nowadays?" Xia Cheng had righteously and justifiably rejected Lan Shi many times, which demonstrated self-discipline and self-control, the true mark of responsibility, unlike Xia Yunfei who would take anyone available and refuse to let go of obtained meat. The reason he was so angry was purely out of concern for vulnerable employees. Someone like Lan Shi, induced from a young age to infringe and exploit others, now goes with the flow so casually. As a kind citizen, Xia Cheng simply could not stand to see this. Besides, Lan Shi must be suffering from heartbreak that Xia Cheng rejected her, so she let Xia Yunfei take advantage of her vulnerability. Xia Yunfei was merely a stand-in, Xia Cheng's substitute. Therefore, when all was said and done, the way things had developed, Xia Cheng bore some responsibility, and thus had an obligation to pull Lan Shi out of the mud. After all, it was his sense of justice that prevented Xia Cheng from turning a blind eye to many things. For instance, although he was angry enough not to drive Lan Shi, both times Xia Cheng had called her a car, specifically finding a female driver. Although Lan Shi didn't say anything, Xia Cheng knew that this subtle care would eventually touch her heart. By contrast, she would naturally realize Xia Yunfei was just a low-end substitute who couldn't compare with Xia Cheng, the real deal. When Xia Cheng slowly made Lan Shi aware of Xia Yunfei's poor conduct and saw through Xia Yunfei's pretenses, Lan Shi would sober up naturally. Xia Cheng was optimistic about enlightening Lan Shi. After all, she still worked under him. With 8 hours of work time every day, there were plenty of opportunities to give her pointers. After Lan Shi returned to her dorm, she spent another half-hour scolding Xia Cheng in her heart, then started pondering how to accomplish the mission of conquering Xia Yunfei. She recalled what Xia Cheng had left her with. "You'd better pray you have time to follow him around if you want any chance of tying him down." According to the guidebook, in Earthling parlance, tying down an Earthman didn't actually mean using rope to tie him up. Rather, it represented conquering the other party. In her recent learning progress, Lan Shi had attained a new level of understanding regarding Earth languages. According to Xia Cheng's meaning, it seemed that to conquer Xia Yunfei, she had to stick to him like glue. Lan Shi suddenly had a flash of inspiration and thought of a perfect plan. There is always something to learn from your teacher's words, and this was no exception. She had gotten inspiration from Xia Cheng's words. Although Cheng Xian and Cheng An were now independent companies, they were still both surnamed Xia. Cheng Xian had started out as a subordinate department of Cheng An before Xia Cheng founded and developed it into its own business. Therefore, according to early rules and regulations, it was possible to choose to transfer or jump ship between departments. And this rule still existed today. Since Lan Shi had already given up on conquering Xia Cheng, working under him was a waste of time. She might as well transfer to be Xia Yunfei's assistant, where she could take action up close and conquer him faster and better. No time like the present, Lan Shi called Xia Yunfei directly. As expected, he was very supportive of the proposal, even pleasantly surprised. "Of course, that's no problem. I'm lacking an assistant right now. With you being so pretty, you'll make me look good when I take you along." Xia Yunfei's delight was genuine. He had dumped Lan Shi tonight to chase Lisa out, forced by the threat that Lisa would expose unsavory gossip from when they used to date if he didn't give her breakup compensation. Although he managed to quickly get away after scaring Lisa off by claiming he had slept with Lanshi already, he still left Lanshi at the scene. By normal pretty girl logic, she should have simmered in anger at him for at least 3 or 4 days. Xia Yunfei was prepared to coax her for days, but before he even started coaxing her, Lanshi had called him herself. She not only didn't blame him at all, she even affectionately offered to be his personal assistant. On top of being beautiful, she was easygoing and her strength was somewhat freakishly powerful. She could also be a bit crazy when doing things, but who would mind? Especially when she had self-righteously declared sleeping with him to Lisa to stake her claim. Even though she was clearly lying, she performed it so genuinely that she successfully scared Lisa off. What did this indicate? It showed Lan she had extremely high EQ and exceptional adaptability. And when she acted out sleeping with him to stake her claim, it also demonstrated her possessiveness, while subtly implying to him that she didn't mind sleeping with him, an ambiguous invitation. Don't worry, I'll get someone to expedite this transfer process. Put in your application on the OA system tonight and I'll get it approved right away. You can come work directly under me starting tomorrow. Xia Yunfei felt wonderful inside. It seemed Xiaqing wasn't as charming as imagined. Since digging his corner was completely effortless, Xiaqing had 3 cooperative partners visiting for negotiations today, but he made an effort to streamline the negotiation process and reduce the working hours. With half an hour left before the end of the workday, he returned to his office. However, Lan Shi's seat was empty. He waited for a moment, but still, no one appeared. Where is Lan Shi? Xiaqing couldn't help asking Liang Di, clearing his throat. I need to speak with her about some data on a report. Lan Shi? She was transferred to Qing'an today, Liang Di replied with surprise. The process is already underway, and she has already started working in the new position. Transferred? Yes, Liang Di explained, we have an internal mobility system and ordinary employees like Lan Shi can apply for job rotation between positions at the same level in Qingxin and Qing'an. As long as the receiving position is willing to accept, it's considered approved if you don't oppose within 12 hours after the OA application. Although the written transfer order takes 2 working days to be issued, the employment relationship is still with Qingxin for now. But generally, once the electronic process is completed, the person can go to work in Qing'an. Xiaqing opened his mobile OA and checked the regulations, feeling increasingly annoyed. Who designed this flawed mechanism? Liang Di cautiously said, it seems to be you. If Liang Di hadn't mentioned it, Xiaqing wouldn't have to recall the motives behind it. In order to deal with the spies occasionally planted by Xiaqing had coordinated with Qing'an and agreed to establish this mechanism. Firstly, it provided a place to handle these spies. Secondly, it saved the trouble of terminating labor contracts, as Qingxin would have to pay severance pay for that. Thirdly, Xiaqing had tacitly accepted this mechanism and publicized it as a good cooperative relationship between brother companies. But he never expected that it would backfire now. What can she learn about the business by following Xia Yunfei? Isn't the treatment in Qingxin good enough? It's not always about the treatment. Liang Di hesitated for a moment but couldn't hold back. She hinted, it's about people and finding happiness in work. In some heartbreaking situations, it's better to leave. Xiaqing was stunned. What? I heard that Lan Shi had a broken heart. She's been miserable recently, so she wanted a change of environment. She has been deeply hurt and is on the verge of giving up. She hasn't eaten anything for 2 days and nights. She looks so haggard, constantly holding her stomach, enduring the pain. You haven't seen it, General Manager. Her complexion is terrible. She used to be so energetic, but now she's as fragile as a piece of paper that could collapse with a gust of wind. She can't even open a bottle of mineral water. Liang Di intentionally said that, but in reality she wasn't losing her appetite for food and drink. In fact, her appetite had improved. Of course, this must have been Shi pretending to be strong, transforming her grief and anger into a craving for food. All of this was caused by Xia Cheng's actions. Liang Di felt sorry for Shi, which is why she fabricated these details to indirectly convey them to Xia Cheng, hoping that he, if he had any conscience left, would feel guilty. Sure enough, after hearing these words, Xia Cheng seemed somewhat conflicted. Why does she have to harm her own body? How she torments herself always ends up affecting her own body. There's nothing she can do. Who asked Shi to have the misfortune of encountering a scumbag? Nowadays, many people appear to be decent gentlemen on the surface, but in reality, they are wolves in sheep's clothing. Xia Cheng always felt that Liang Di's words held a deeper meaning, but he had no evidence. After all, when he looked into her eyes, Liang Di appeared genuinely natural and upright. Being together with a lousy substitute, not eating or drinking, subjecting herself to abuse, and ultimately resorting to abortion and even starving to the point of a gastric perforation. Xia Cheng searched the internet and learned that this was indeed something many adolescent girls would do when they couldn't get what they wanted. Even romantic novels specifically describe such stories, known as youthful pain literature or abusive love. Some girls always fantasize about punishing and hurting themselves in order to make their ex-boyfriends feel sorry or repent. This behavior is particularly common among girls who lack love and care during their childhood, just like Shi, who is a typical example of someone who didn't receive proper treatment growing up. If Xia Cheng were unaware, it would be one thing, but now that he knew, he felt conflicted. Just when he was hesitating whether to contact Shi proactively, there was a commotion outside. Before long, the door of Xia Cheng's office was pushed open, and a girl rushed in. Chowan followed closely behind her, somewhat helpless. General Manager Xia, she says she must report something important right now. I couldn't stop her. General Manager Xia, I know this is impulsive, but there's something I've been thinking about, and I can only report it to you. Xia Cheng glanced at her. The girl who rushed in was named Zhang Wei, but according to her ID card, she wasn't an employee of Xia Cheng's company but rather of Xian's. Although Xia Cheng and Xian are considered sister companies on paper, they have separate specific operations. If you have an issue related to Xian's work, you should report it to your direct supervisor at Xian. Zhang Wei bit her lip. I know, but my direct supervisor has already left me with no options. He even tacitly approved everything that happened. I'm isolated at Xian, and Shi used to be your subordinate, so I thought maybe you could help her. Xia Cheng paused. Shi? Yes. Zhang Wei looked like she was on the verge of tears. Shi helped me. But I'm afraid something will happen to her. She went to attend Wei Zhen's dinner party. Xia Cheng's face darkened. Wei Zhen was someone Xia Cheng knew. In fact, Wei Zhen was originally one of Cheng's major clients, owning a shipping company that had a significant annual demand for database and meteorological software operations. They were a good-paying customer, making them a valuable client. However, after their initial collaboration, Xia Cheng decided to terminate the partnership. Your F48 stories on /o/v/lbn.cm. The reason was simple: Wei Zhen had serious ethical issues. On multiple occasions during their collaborations, Wei Zhen harassed female employees at Xia Cheng's company. Especially during social gatherings, Wei Zhen not only made inappropriate comments but also made unwelcome physical advances, even going so far as to spike the drink of a female employee from Cheng Xian, attempting to take her to a hotel room. It was only after this incident that Xia Cheng learned from his employees that Wei Zhen had a history of such behavior. He promptly reported the incident to the police and severed all ties with Wei Zhen. Although Wei Jin managed to escape any legal consequences with the help of his legal team, a grudge was formed between the two. Why did Lan Shi go to Wei Jin's gathering? Zhang Wei's eyes were still red, and she hurriedly explained, recently, General Yunfei suddenly came to the company, saying he wanted to make a big impact and achieve high KPIs. I don't know where he heard that Wei Jin was a major client, but he insisted on developing this business source. Despite our attempts to communicate the issues with Wei Jin, he ignored our concerns and even demanded that I attend tonight's reception. My supervisor is completely obedient to General Yunfei's decisions. As Xiaqing looked at the female employee before him, he noticed that although she wasn't dressed in expensive clothing, she had a simple and refreshing appearance. While her looks couldn't compare to Lan Shi, she was still a pretty and delicate girl among the crowd. Her tear-filled eyes made her even more vulnerable, and Xiaqing found it hard to ignore her. I'm not from here, and my family is in a small town. I have no relatives or connections here, and I don't have a boyfriend. General Yunfei insists that I attend, or else I'll be fired. I couldn't afford to lose this job, so I hid in the bathroom and cried. Lan Shi saw me and eventually offered to go in my place, asking me to keep it a secret. Zhang Wei grew more guilty as she continued. I was weak and avoided the situation, not saying anything in opposition. But now that Lan Shi has gone, the more I think about it, the more I realize it's not right. If something happens to Lan Shi, it will be because of me. I can't let her down. She pleaded, looking at Xiaqing. I didn't dare to tell General Yunfei. If he found out, not only would he not support me, but he would also fire me. So, Mr. Cheng, considering Lan Shi used to be your employee, can you help save her? Xiaqing quickly and directly asked Zhang Wei for more information. He learned that this gathering, ostensibly a business negotiation meeting, was actually attended only by Zhang Wei and her sleazy supervisor. The supervisor's role was not so much to host but to monitor and ensure that Zhang Wei accompanied the guests appropriately. It was even possible that they planned to intoxicate Zhang Wei and deliver her to Wei Jin's bed. Now, Lan Shi had replaced Zhang Wei, but the situation remained unchanged. Xiaqing felt a throbbing pain in his temples, but he had no choice but to ignore it. Xiaqing tried to convince himself that, considering the employment relationship, Lan Shi was still a new employee under Qingxin, and the process couldn't be rushed. Moreover, although Zhang Wei had hinted that Wei Jin would be handsy, Lan Shi had no idea of the extent of Wei Jin's despicable methods. He would even go so far as to drug someone to achieve his goals, especially with a greasy boss like an old turtle. Lan Shi was straightforward and direct, not one to engage in convoluted tactics. I understand. I'll take care of this matter. Without much thought, Xiaqing grabbed his coat and headed straight to the hotel restaurant where Wei Jin was. That's all for this part, truckers. See you all in next video.